Getting ready for bed at a regular time is one of the most important habits you can learn.
Who you gonna call?
Jason was my son, and today is his birthday.
Oh, Lori, scared another one away.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Sorry, Jack. Chucky's back.
We are counselors at Hackett's Quarry Summer Camp. There is a swarm of bears.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
Most people are so ungrateful to be alive, but not you.
It's showtime.
Hello, and welcome back to another wonderful episode of the Sream Stream. Now we are on episode 47, and this one's gonna be a fantastic, wonderful episode. Trust me, guys. I know what y'all thinking. Amanda, you said you're gonna talk about the Saw movies, and no one really wants to hear about anything about the Saw movies. They're full of nothing but grotesque violence and basically traps that torture people to death. That is true. That is true. But there's a lot more to the Saw franchise than just the traps and the blood and guts and gore and the torture aspect of everything. There's a lot more. There is a story. It's a very convoluted and complex story, but there is a story. And unfortunately, the story is not easily explained by going one movie at a time. And I realized this about halfway through the first Saw movie as I was looking over my notes. So I was taking a bit of a break while I went to the bathroom. And I realized that to tell what I want to tell about Saw, it isn't the traps, it isn't the cop drama, it isn't the BS and all that shenanigans that has gone on. It's the man himself I want to talk about. Because without the man himself, none of this would have been possible. And I'm going to be honest, he's one of my favorite horror icons. Like, trust me, he's one of my favorites. Not the favorite now. Like, of course, that's Michael. Like, Michael will always be my favorite horror icon, and followed by Freddy. And, of course, Jason. But he's up there in the top 5 for sure. I love John. I love Jigsaw. And I will be bouncing back and forth, calling him John and Jigsaw, because that's what I'm used to. Even Kramer. I might even call him Kramer by accident. But the point is, we are going to be talking about not just the first 4 Saws that I like, or any of the random Saws. I'm not going to go beat by the movies like I've always done. I want to try something new this time. I want to try something a little different, something a lot of people probably done, kind of like an analyze the horror icon thing. But I want to do something called Let's Talk About an Insert Horror Icon. And let's just talk about him. What made the movie great with him? What made his actions great? What made him or her, no, I was about to say unfortunately, but fortunately on this time, it's John. We're talking about John on this one, but the point is, him or her, what's the whole reasoning? Why they a great horror icon? That's what I want to do. Now, this ain't going to be like an everyday kind of thing on the podcast, just depends on my mood, if I want to talk about a certain horror icon or something. Because there's a lot of the movies like that, like Nightmare on Elm Street. I love Nightmare on Elm Street 1. I like 3. 2's got its moments when I need a good laugh. 4 and 5, unless I'm having a marathon. Don't really care for. Don't really care for Freddy's Dead. I like Freddy vs. Jason, but it's one of those, I don't want to sit down and watch all these movies, but then I just can't just talk about one of those movies. So, this is kind of like a perfect middle. Because I will be talking about the Saw franchise, just like I said, not going beat by beat. But we're mainly going to be talking about Jigsaw himself. About what makes Jigsaw tick, why he acts the way he does. I have done a lot of research, and funny enough, a lot of people still have some notions about some of the movies and not taking into consideration the rest of the movies that came after. Because again, a lot of these people came up with these theories years and years ago when the movies were fresh and there weren't 6 different sequels going on here. So I will be kind of unraveling some stuff, especially in Saw 3. It's mainly a lot of stuff to deal with Amanda, because when it comes to John, you can't talk about John without Amanda, because there's a lot there. There's a lot there that I was digging around, and it started clicking, and it started making more sense, and that started scaring me more when I started understanding John's motivations behind a lot of things. I know what y'all saying. Well, man, his whole motivation was, he got diagnosed with cancer, he tried to kill himself. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to it. So let's go ahead. Let's just start. Let's just start. By the way, I'm not going to go with this whole, John Kramer, born such and such time. We know who he is. We don't need, a full backstory here. But to give you a perspective of who John is as an adult, before we met him as Jigsaw, Kramer was a brilliant man, even before he became a psychotic individual. He's one of those types of villains. He wasn't born to be an icon of horror. He was made into it, if that makes sense. Like Freddy, he was made to be a horror icon because he was viciously murdered by the parents who want to get revenge on him, so now he's coming back to haunt. He was created that way. He wasn't born that way. Jason was born to be a serial killer, Which I think he was born to be a serial killer. I mean, it makes sense, the fact that, he dies and it comes back and then boom, he's now killing people. That just seems like he was born. Same thing with Michael. He was born to be a serial killer too. Kramer, however, was not. Kramer was a civic engineer, which helped him grab a lot of businesses per se, such as the Gideon Meat Plant. He started doing this thing called the Urban Renewal Group, which made a lot of the housing projects for people who couldn't afford homes. So he was a very smart man, very savvy businessman. And what made him a very scary icon, is the fact that he is very, very good at predicting human behavior, to the point that he's thinking of stuff weeks in advance. It's almost like when he meets you and he gets to know you, he learns everything about you and can calculate how you will react to certain things, like a chain event. So he plays out these scenarios in his head, and he always has fallback schemes. And I actually like that about John, the fact that he covers all his bases. And, as we go further on to this whole discussion with John, you'll see. But he is a smart man, very well at predicting people's behaviors. But what made him even worse, though, is when he started turning into Jigsaw, he started developing what I like to call a God complex. Because of some of his teachings, he becomes more of a religious icon. I mean, look at what he's basically doing. He's making a cult of Saw people. People who survived the traps, he's bringing them in to be apprentices. And he's wearing robes. The way he talks to people. He enunciates with very fancy words. He uses a lot of religious dialogue. He actually talks down on people. And he's a little snarky about it. But he ain't mean, but he's honest. That's the sad part. He's a very honest individual. But he talks down to people because he's got this God's complex going on for him, because he thinks he is judge. He's judge, jury, but not the executioner. You are your own executioner, but he does judge you, and as the jury, he sentences you to the game. So, that's the way I've always seen John, the way he works on people, is that once he gets to know you, he determines whether or not you are worthy to be in the games. And frankly, you don't want to be worthy to be part of those games, because that means you have done terrible things in life, or done nothing with your life at all. I know, that sounds weird. What do you mean you can get in these games without doing nothing at all? Oh no, John really takes those words, cherish your life, to heart. Trust me, it gets crazy. And you notice this a lot with his rules. When he's speaking about his rules in the tapes and stuff, listen to what he says to the players. It it's very God. It's very like, I am God. I am telling you how to survive. And he never lies about how to survive, and he never, like, and this is something I love about him, is the fact that if you have to pay attention to every word he says, because everything he says is serious, and there's no play on words about it. If he says, oh, you need to burn yourself on that hot flames of love or something, you gotta burn yourself with some kind of flames in the room. Like, it's rather obvious. But it's just the way he picks his words and the way he holds himself up. And again, like I said, he's got this whole cult thing around him. So, he's got this godlike complex on him. But he also got good friends, too. He's got a good balance of relationships. And again, he doesn't get the god complex until after certain incidents, But as a normal human being, as John Kramer is John Kramer, not Jigsaw, he was a well-respected gentleman, very smart, very ahead of the curve, had some good business partners such as Art Blank. Remember that name because it comes back to haunt everybody later. And of course, we can't forget about his lovely wife, Jill, who he was really bonded with because of her working at her clinic. And her clinic, of course, was homeward bound, and she came up with the whole cherish your life thing. And she basically wanted to help druggies and people, just get a better life, get off the drugs, rehabilitation, a rehab center. And John could get behind that because he wants to do the same. He wants to make the world good. Like, he really does. I mean, again, he does these urban renewal projects, the Gideon Meatpacking Plant. All of this was to help people out, smaller communities to grow. He had a good agenda and a good heart on him. That's the sad part. He's almost like Negan in a way. He was created to become the bad guy because of the situation, and he just kind of rolled with it after the fact. And that's what made him psychotic. I'm not going to lie, that's what made him psychotic. It was like a Joker situation as well. Just one bad day, boom, next thing you know, he's in, La La Land creating traps for random people who are just stealing off the dead. And I'm not joking about that. And we all remember Saw X, where he imagined the whole eyeball trap because he saw the janitors stealing the coma patient's watch and shit. And he's just like, good choice when he didn't do it. John's got a conscience. But Jill was like his rock. Jill was definitely his rock. Jill lifted him up. Jill made him feel good. And so, the man's on top of the world. And he's feeling great about life. And of course, what's actually really, really interesting about this is this one character that pops in and out of John's life that I've noticed, William Easton. That was his name, William Easton. I don't know why I said Easton. He works for that insurance company, and he's like a good final boss for John. If that makes any sense. Let me explain if it doesn't. So throughout the Saw movies, of course, John is the one creating all the games. Like, even after he dies, when we get to Saw 5 and 6, it's still his game in play. Because remember, he told Hoffman to do the game for 5, and in 6 was supposed to be Jill's game. Like, apparently Jill was supposed to do it, and then Hoffman took it over. And then after that, when it comes to 7, I don't think that was John. I don't think John originally had plans for him. I think that was all Hoffman's doing. And I'll explain that when I get there. Because, these whole unbeatable trap things, that's all Hoffman. That is all Hoffman. But I'll get there when we get to Hoffman. We're still in the early days of John. But what's interesting about William is that he's got a formula. And John doesn't like this formula. And it's the formula of who determines. Basically, the way John puts it is he gets to determine who lives or who dies. And in some aspects, that kind of intrigues John, but he doesn't like the formula the guy uses. Because the guy uses the formula, and I shit you not, this is the actual formula. Monthly payments multiply the lifespan minus the probability of illness equals if it's greater than, they get the insurance. If it's lesser, they don't. John then rebuttals back with, Well, there's one thing you don't take into account with that formula. And what is that? The will to live. Until a person is faced with death, it is hard to tell if they have what it takes to survive. Right there. Right there, that shows you a good mindset of John. The way he looks at life and death itself. The will to live. And y'all know me. I always make that joke about the will of the mission. You know, like when I'm playing Resident Evil 4 and I barely survived which fight is it? The Vertigo fight? That's the one. Yeah, every time I fight Vertigo, I always wind up with like an inch of life left, and I call it the will of the motherfucking mission. That's all that is, the will of the mission. And that's what John's saying. The will to live. And that is a strong, strong, strong thing in the human brain. The will to live. And that's something I think a lot of people forget when they're watching the movie, is that people's will to live, give or take. Yeah, you have that certain feel, especially if you're in a trap. You wake up, you find that in your trap. If you really wanted to live, like this is gonna be straight up. Let me just be straight with y'all. You woke up in a trap. Say you were in the Venus flytrap. And for those of y'all who don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to Venus flytraps, the opening kill in Saw 2, it's basically the guy who basically got a Venus flytrap on his head, and he's got, I can't remember how many minutes to cut open the socket underneath his eye and pull out a key. Now, he panicked. He couldn't do it. The will was not strong with him because he was too afraid of bodily harm on himself to attempt to save his own life. If he had the true will to live, he would have forgo the pain, stuck it in his eye, ripped it out, dug around, could have made himself blind, yes, but he survived. That is what John is looking for, that will to live. He puts people in these traps. And this is something I want to get onto when it comes to John, because a lot of people like to say John is a murderer. And John puts these people in traps that are inescapable. And people, of course, have lists about how they couldn't escape these traps and stuff. I'm like, yeah, some of these are good listings. But some of y'all are forgetting that some of these traps aren't John. Hoffman does a lot of these, and Hoffman's the one. Hoffman's the only one out of the bunch who has been caught and even reprimanded by Jigsaw himself about using traps that are unbeatable. He's the only one to do it. Look back to all his games. Hoffman's games were Saw 7 and Saw 4. Those were Hoffman's games. Not Amanda's, not John's. Hoffman ran those. Think back to those traps that Hoffman had, and don't go with the, well, John's the one creating the traps. No, because by Saw 3, that man was in his deathbed. There's no way he was moving around. They even show you that he's being pushed around a wheelchair by Amanda. There's no way for a long period of time he could work on these machinery and these traps. It's all Hoffman. Hoffman works on traps himself. Even Kramer made a comment about it. It was just, what was it? It was something about the pendulum trap. And just, he made fun of the type of metal he used, because he was just like, yeah, your cracker ship was cheap or something. Use titanium, it's a better cut. And he like threw out a knife at him or something. It was hilarious. It was hilarious because it was like him talking down on him. But the point is, Hoffman is the one that makes the unbeatable traps, not John. John makes traps that nowhere in the game contract does it say you were going to come out unscathed. Okay, let's get that straight up. Yes, it is a terrible thing to be in these traps. You shouldn't be in these traps, but John picks people for a particular reason. I'll get there when I get there. But when it comes to his traps, they are beatable. You just got to put yourself through that pain. And that is where the will to live comes in at. Are you like, let's take case in point. Razor maze wire trap. Fat guy trying to get through, panics, ends up cutting his wrist, his gut, his chest, all over the place. because he panics and freaks out, can't get out of this maze because he's worried about all the physical pain going on in his body. And because of his panic, that's what killed him. Let's go to my other favorite trap that a lot of people like to say, well, that's not fair, that's unbeatable. The jelly trap. Guys, I'm gonna be this person now. I'm just gonna be this person. That trap was beatable. The dude just was not smart. Okay, the dude was not smart. First of all, a lot of people, when they see that particular room, notice, of course, he's butt naked, covered in jelly in the middle of the floor with glass in the middle and a bunch of, numbers on the wall. He got told he's got a slow-acting virus in his system, okay? You got the will to live, right? The will to live to me would be, okay, I wake up in this trap, I'm covered in jelly, I'm going to give myself roughly 2 hours to live because he says it's a slow-acting poison. What am I going to do? First, I'm going to grab the tape recorder, right? Because I'm looking at my surroundings and see I'm by glass. So I'm going to clear a pathway with the tape recorder to the wall. Why? Because I'm going to do something stupid, but it makes sense. I'm going to proceed to rub myself on the wall to get some of the jelly off of me. Kind of dry myself off a little bit, And then once I'm dried off, make my way back to the middle where I started. Grab the candle, grab the, whatever else, I think it was a box of matches or something, put them on the shelf, see if that glass table can come undone, then use that to sweep the glass in the middle, okay? So that takes care of the pain, so you're not have to worry about stepping on fucking broken glass. And then once you do that, and now that you got this piece of portable glass, here's another brilliant idea. You take the candle, you put it on the glass, and you proceed to look for the combination. Now, granted, again, you gotta figure this shit out. But eventually, I think all eyes noticed that the combination number was actually bigger than the rest. Like, fun fact, you can find the combination. I found it. It is bigger. The numbers for the safe are bigger than the rest of the numbers in the room. I guess all my years of finding like random things in puzzles and stuff, like Find Waldo. Yeah, it was like finally my Find Waldo skills paid off. But the point is, that trap was beatable, but the guy was not thinking because the guy's panicking. And that's what kills a lot of these people in these traps. They panic, they worry, they don't take in their surroundings. Guy with the Venus flytrap actually could have had hours to do what he needed to do. But no, he panicked, pulled a little box up, and started the timer. Amanda did the same thing. She panicked, pulled herself out of the chair, and boom, started her timer. When put in situations like this, calm down. Focus. Now, if you don't give a crap about your life, sure, go ham. Go crazy. Get yourself killed. John wants to see if you just have that will to live. If you deserve a second chance. But yes, didn't mean to go on a tangent there about that. But the point is, the will to live is something that speaks very highly to John. And that is his trained thought when making these traps for people to survive. That they have to have that will to live. He's got to have traps that they can escape from, but they got to have that will to live to escape it. If you don't have it, you ain't gonna make it. And John, don't feel bad for you, because you don't deserve a second chance. If you're not willing to fight for your own life, what's the point of living? And again, guys, let me, before we continue on, let me just make something perfectly clear. I am not glorifying John's actions. I am not saying I am a follower of Jigsaw. I am not saying let's go do what he does. No, I am not like that. I know John's a psychopath. He's crazy. He is just a really good horror icon. We're just having fun here, going over some analytics about John, okay? So, for whatever y'all hear me say about John, I'm not glorifying anything he does and saying, this is acceptable, this is okay. I'm not saying any of this is okay, by the way. None of this is okay. I'm just trying to talk to y'all about John through his perspective. Since this movie likes to do something that I normally dislike in my horror icons. I think I talked about this last week on the last podcast, when it comes to my horror icons, I like the less is more approach when it comes to like the spooky guys, you know, mass killers and stuff. Because I don't want to feel sympathy while I'm being chased by a serial killer here. I want to be terrified here. But John's the opposite for me. Because the more you know about this man, the scarier he gets. And this does work for a lot of horror icons. For others, it doesn't. For others, it kind of ruins the mystique factor, the cool factor about them, and makes them look like whiny bitches, okay? Like, we're not scared of them anymore. At that point, we look at them, we kind of, you know, we do that number, we chuckle. But with John and several other horror icons, when you do learn their backstory, do learn more about them, it makes them even more terrifying. And mainly it's when they're more realistic, such as John. Somebody like John, as weird as it sounds, could exist. Nobody like Jason Voorhees could exist because I don't see a zombie coming back to life and murdering people. But somebody like John could exist. Now, Michael, not so much. Because the whole, you know, he got shot 7 times and stood up and walked away. I want to see a normal man get shot 6 times. I forgot, that's what Loomis says. I shot him 6 times! I shot him 6 times! He shot him 6 times and yet he still got off that damn ground. That ain't human, that ain't normal. Okay, that man survives too much damn shit to be human. But John's very much human. And again, that's what makes him scary. And I like that, you know, that he's one of the fewer horror icons that the more I delved into him, the scarier I got of him, or the scarier he got for me, I should say. Because, man, this man is a freaking genius. Like, I thought Eric from Family Opera was like a genius. No, this John just like, here, hold my coffee. I got this. But, again, you see what I'm coming from, though, about the will to live. You know, John's mindset, you know, he's not full psychopath yet, but he does have that mindset to want to keep, you know, to keep the idea that people who are willing to fight for their life if necessary. They really care about living and have something to live for, it's necessary. But unfortunately, all good things must come to the end, and every villain needs an arc. Every villain needs to start. This is where it starts. So everything's all good till Adams and Amanda show up. And we all know Adam Cecil. And of course, we're going to talk about the whole sad incident where Cecil broke into the clinic while Jill was 7 months pregnant and unfortunately crushed the baby when he slammed open the door and basically killing Gideon and making her have miscarriage. That crushed John. Let me explain. Not just in the aspect of he lost his child and he cannot be a father. Because I want to say they had to take Jill's whole thing out, her whole reproductive system. I think they had to take it out because of the miscarriage. I could be wrong. I'm not 100% sure. But I do believe that was the case. So she also lost his ability. So now he's hurting for her. He's hurting for himself. And on top of that, Cecil basically got away with this. He murdered a poor innocent baby and got away with this. And all John and Jill were trying to do was to help him. Now, here's something I'm going to add a little extra. And this is where some of the theories come in of why John does what he does. We all know that Amanda was also there. We know that in a flashback. I think Amanda eventually, you know, shows us, the audience, in a flashback, I think in Saw 3, where we know she was there. Well, John's a smart man. Let me iterate that again. He's a brilliant man who understands human behavior. He knows the type of person Cecil is because he's talked to Cecil before. He knows who Cecil hangs out with. He knew Amanda was there. That is my theory. I don't think it's ever confirmed if John knew But I have my suspicions. I'm like 99.9999% sure John knew about Amanda being there. Thus is why he picked her in Saw 1. Because of his whole rehabilitation thing. And some other things he said. And it's mainly some stuff he said towards Hoffman. And we'll get to the Hoffman section. But he knew. He was well aware of that, but he was already planning. As soon as his baby died and he was left in his own mind, he started already plotting and planning. Because he already had his suspicions, or not suspicions, but he already had his thought that the clinic wasn't working the way it should. And he sees this because he sees the injustice of the world. He sees, these criminals getting away with shit, people getting locked up for things they didn't do, the brutality of cops, the druggies being druggies at the clinic. And he's trying to make it better, but he's seeing that these methods that we normally do are not working. So what's a better method out there? What is a better outlook? And of course, that's where John starts thinking, how can I change a person? Make them regret their decisions in life. So he kidnaps Cecil on an iconic year because, again, this is how well planned out this was. Gideon was supposed to be born on the year of the pig. It was supposed to be your rebirth. John planned that. Don't ask me how, but this man planned for Gideon to be born on the year of the pig. He's that much of a freaking genius that he micromanages when his kid was going to be born. Oh my God, like seriously. But because of the year of the pig and the rebirth, it actually makes sense because of John's whole teaching and methods. Because his whole point of his game is about becoming anew, rebirthing from the previous criminal you were. He wants to give you that second chance. He wants to see if you deserve that second chance. That's that Yuri in him going, I sentence you to one hellish game at Gideon's. Boop. Enjoy and survive. But yeah, the games are all about rebirth. So it is kind of iconic and ironic that conveniently he started killing the year of rebirth, which means it's also, and in some sense, a rebirth to John himself, because John is now becoming a new man. Same guy, but he's slowly changing into the crazy psychopathic dude we see today. And trust me, he is a psychopath for sure. But he's a genius. He's a genius psychopath. And that, yet again, like I said, makes him scary. So, the first trap, the first thing. Now, this is very important when he kidnaps Cecil. Of course, there's an underlining theme here. And this is a theme I don't hear a lot of people talk about in the Saw franchise. I don't know why, because it's heavy all over this. And I guess even I didn't even realize it, so I started taking my notes and went, wow, I'm writing this word a lot here. Revenge. Revenge. John has a disdain for killing, but he thinks everyone deserves a chance to survive, if that makes any sense. So when you think revenge, a typical person with revenge is always something petty. With John, his form of revenge is he wants to say, I forgive you, but he wants to see if you deserve that forgiveness, if that makes any sense. Because when he puts you through these traps, when he has some personal vendetta against you, he wants to see if you're worthy of that forgiveness he wants to get. And this is the whole point for Cecil. I want to say there's an underlining revenge theme going on with John when he kidnaps Cecil. It's not just to test him to see if he's worthy of the second chance and of forgiveness, but it's a bit of a revenge aspect because the trap he puts him in is, of course, the knife chair, where he's got to push his face through a bunch of knives to basically make his face match his soul. The thing is, of course, typical facial scars like that, if he would have done it smartly, would have healed up pretty nicely. But of course, Cecil's got to, because he, panic. I can't deal with the pain. Really? Really? You can't deal with the pain? Didn't mind killing my baby, though. I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure that's what John was thinking the entire time watching Cecil. But the point is, he got to do it. And of course, Cecil passed. Cecil did his test. And John, of course, stood there and was just like, congratulations, you passed. Good for you. And instead of heeding any advice John gave him throughout the entire conversation, instead of, taking in any accountability for his own action, he proceeds to attack John. And John slightly steps to the left, and Cecil jumps to a barbed wire cage and ends up, I guess, bleeding to death. Now, what's interesting about this scene, and why I think his revenge is unique to a degree, is because of what he does after. You would think if he was just searching for just revenge, he would watch Cecil die. Because Cecil, he jumped in that trap, and, of course, he ain't gonna make it out there. And if I was John, and I wanted revenge, and the guy who killed my baby was in a trap I created, and he's dying, I'm gonna sit there and watch. I'm gonna get some popcorn, get a big soda pop. We're gonna sit there and we're gonna gossip until I see you stop moving. But John don't do that. John kind of, grabs a pad and pencil and proceeds to start writing some stuff down, or drawing, one of the two. But the point is, pad to pencil, that's what he does. Because he looked at this as a revenge at first, but when he passed the test and, wins the barbed wire trap, so technically, did he pass or did he fail his test? I don't know. The point is, the guy didn't make it. But John looked at that, and he didn't feel that anger anymore. He didn't feel that revenge anymore. He felt, what's the word I'm looking for? Displeased? He felt more displeased about the situation because he thought maybe his train of games is not going to work. Because his whole idea, again, is to rehabilitate you. Put yourself through physical pain to see if you want to redeem your life. And unfortunately, Cecil didn't redeem his life. Cecil just said, screw you, John, and then jumped some barbed wire. So that, to a degree, had John questioning himself. Because, again, in some aspect, this had to be some sort of revenge. Just a little bit of revenge. Just a tad bit. But once he had his revenge, he was still left with that empty feeling. So he realized it wasn't the revenge that he wanted. It wasn't the redemption that he needed. So, of course, he had to take notes and rethink his plan again. Is my theory correct? Can people change? Because he's not sure if his methods work. Scary part is, scary part is, his methods actually do work. To a degree. There is a type of therapy that I'm assuming he's pulling some theories from. It's called the exposure therapy. It's like with people with deep-seated fears. Like, case in point for me, if I was going to exposure therapy, they would probably hand me a snake and go, deal with it. And however the therapy plays out, I'm stuck in this room with this snake and I gotta face my fear. John's doing something similar, but the fear is death. The fear of death is looming over you. That is the exposure therapy he's trying to do. He's trying to change you and rebirth you. Like there's a ceremony he does with Amanda where he basically makes her, raise her the long way across her arm, and then basically get to the brink of death, and he brings her back to life. Kind of rebirthing or renew, because that's what he went through. And we're about to get there. Because this is what follows the rest of the catalyst for John himself. So once he got done having his revenge on Cecil, and it didn't feel that emptiness in his pit of his stomach, And it didn't make him feel better because now Cecil just proved that maybe his method isn't going to work. Maybe this whole plan of his, because now he needs a new plan in life. He needs a new lease because he ain't going to be a father anymore. He's not feeling close to Jill anymore. He keeps pushing her away, even though both her and Art are coming to him going, John, listen, you haven't been the same since any of this. Like, he even sells his stocks in his company. He divorces Jill, tells her to stay away from him. Because he can't process his emotions. So he throws himself into this madness, into this method that he thinks could cure people. He's got to have a reason to live at this point. But unfortunately, life tends to life, and things stacked up on top of him. So not only did he lose his child, he gave up all his stocks in his company, so he no longer has a company. He's getting a divorce. This man found out he has cancer, and he's dying. And the sad factor is, if Logan from Jigsaw did not accidentally swap his name tag around with another guy, they could have caught it sooner and saved his life. That's some bad luck to have. Just one BS thing after the other. Just like life is just throwing lemons at John. And I don't mean just like a little, no, I'm talking about like a baseball Babe Ruth throw or something. Like, I don't know. Like, it's some crazy, like life is just like punching this poor man to death here. So John can't take it. You know, he's confused about his methods. He's upset about the death of his son. He's upset about the divorce of his wife. He's given up on life. So what do you do? What do you do as a man who has nothing to live for? Well, he throws himself and his car off a cliff. Like, straight up. That's literally what happened. He drives himself off a cliff. And somehow he survives. Now, this is again where the live comes from. He comes out of the car wreck. Car's upside down. He crawls out from the passenger seat. He's got like a piece of rebar stuck in his gut. Now, this man really has no reason to live. He's stated that several times. I got no reason to live. But for some reason, that will to live sneaks up into him. And he pulls that rebar out of him, and he crawls his ass up that embankment, and somehow comes out a changed man because he came back from the brink of death. And now he knows his method is working because he tested it out on himself. If he can survive this and come out a changed and better man and have a new renewal in life and want to live it, why can't others? Cecil was just a mistake. Cecil was just because I want to revenge. Take revenge out of the aspect and just let them solve their own games. It's a win-win. How do we test this out, though? How do we test this out? I know what you're thinking. Are we getting to Saw 1 yet? Not even close. We're actually going up onto our first move. We're finally getting close because a lot of the stuff I'm talking about right now is stuff you found out in flashbacks and flashbacks within flashbacks kind of thing. And they're spread out through all the movies. So that's why I haven't said, well, in Saw this and this Saw, you know, that's just a lot of double crossing. Not double crossing, double checking. And yeah, I just didn't already have time for that. I already swapped myself too much with John Kramer lore. Didn't want to fact check scenes like that. But we are getting close to the first half of Jigsaw. And what I mean by the first half is you gotta remember Jigsaw is a 2-point story. We're watching the game from the past, but we're following the case in the present because a similar game is happening. And I'll explain that if you don't get that, especially if you've never seen Jigsaw. I can get why you probably didn't watch that one. Because it threw me off for a loop, too. I'm like, wait a minute. How can Kramer be back? He's been dead for, like, how many years at that point? When did Jigsaw come out? Oh, my God. That was years. At least 10 years. Yeah, at least 10 years since his death or something like that, give or take. Give or take a couple of years. the point is, he still has that will to live and that encouragement to do these games. But he survived his car crash. Where do you go from here? You're still dying of cancer. How do you survive? Well, he's John Kramer, a rich man with methods and ways. And fortunately enough, he talked to a guy who's his cancer support group who recommended a very good Norway doctor. But unfortunately, and here's a funny aspect, or funny thing, we didn't hear about this Norway project thing until Saw X, correct? You know, eventually they changed it to New Mexico or something like that. But funny enough, we actually did hear about this Norway thing. It comes from Saw 6, I do believe. I think that's the good one I like. Saw 5 is the boring one. Saw 6 was the zoo game, I think. Which one's the zoo game? Yeah, Saw 6. Saw 6 had the zoo game. But in that one, you learn that Kramer actually went up to his lawyer, William, and was just like, yeah, man, I'm not his lawyer, he was an insurance guy, but he was just like, yeah, man, I want to do this Norwegian thing. Can you make this possible? And he flat out rejects him and said, no, it's not feasible. If this was a real thing, you know, you already been covered, but this is not, so, you know, yeah, and if you try to actively sign out to go get this magical cure, yeah, we're going to drop you from our insurance. That was William's mistake, and that's what put him on his shit list. That is what put him on the shit list. But, like I said, John's got this revigorating energy to start anew. So how do we start this off? So this is where Jigsaw comes in now. We have literally the barn game. We have, it's considered, I think, the practice test. The practice, because there is a difference, by the way. There's a difference between tests, games, and traps. The traps are within the games, and the tests are before the games. The test we're seeing, or the game we're seeing, is a test game, where we get to see his first ever game. And of course, there's always got to be a little slice of revenge in there, because John can feel maybe the revenge wasn't fulfilling, but he still feels this urge to get revenge on people, not just, because I know there's two types of people he goes after. People who destroy their own lives and people who destroy other lives. But he takes it personal when you destroy his life. And I will say, he never has frowned upon the word revenge. He frowns upon mindless murder, but he doesn't frown upon the thought of revenge. And I think that's why him and Hoffman got together very, very well. But again, we'll get there when we get to the Hoffman section. But the characters in this one tell you kind of the people John looks to. These 5 contestants show you the type of people John goes after. Because John's a smart-ass motherfucker. So you got, of course, his revenge kill. His revenge kill is the guy who sold his nephew the motorcycles with the broken brakes. That's revenge. That's why his trap was one of the hardest traps ever. Again, it was a winnable trap. The only thing that screwed him up was that one chick, John's neighbor chick, whatever her name was, I can never remember her name, was messing with the trap and trying to stall it out and stuff. Like, the man had options. As long as he didn't panic, stood straight like a diving board, could have grabbed that. He really could have. But no, he panicked and then got his arm stuck in something. Next thing you know, he became blender pieces. But you kind of see where he takes his revenge. He doesn't. It's one of those things where he doesn't put you in these traps and makes them inescapable because of the revenge. He puts you in horrible traps that he knows you can beat, but knows if you fail, it's going to be beautiful. He's that type of revenge nut, where he's going to make sure that it's still a beatable trap. It's going to be a very hard beatable trap, but it's going to be a beatable trap that if you mess up, it's gonna make his day. It's gonna make him happy. And I'm sure John was a very happy man when he saw that corpse. He was just like, "Oh, look at my beautiful artwork." No, I'm just kidding. I don't think he did that now. He was probably more upset because there's something about John I've learned about him. And this is one of those things where a lot of people like to say, well, he's a sadist. Yeah, he likes to watch people. No, he doesn't. Not to the extent that people think. John likes to watch because when you pass his test, not only does that reassure him and confirm to him that his methods are working, it's kind of like that reinforcement, that boost in ego he needs, but he's also there for when you do pass your test, he's there to take care of you medically. And we've seen that countless times. We saw it with Gordon, we saw it with Amanda, we saw it in Saw X with the guy with the bombs on his arm. John watches because he has to, not because he wants to. He doesn't get any kind of sexual pleasure or enjoyment to a degree, because I still think he gets some kind of enjoyment watching people he personally hates being put in these traps. But I think that's anybody in nature. But John could be a little detached from emotions, so he could actually not really care. But I don't think that's true, because he does have emotions. We've seen it, the way he feels about Jill, the way he feels about Gordon, Amanda. He has no feelings towards Hoffman. Hoffman's just there. But the point is, he does care about people, so he does have feelings and emotions here. But when it comes to revenge kills, though, I'm sure he got a little tickly in his heart for a second. But the point is, there's always a revenge kill. There's always somebody who personally did him wrong in something. Second, it's always a person who did somebody else wrong and got them killed. I mean, just recently, again, with this one, with the Jigsaw trap, it was the blonde chick who stole the purse and accidentally killed a woman who had asthma. She died over, well, what was it, $3.72 or something like that? It's sad. But John don't like people like that, so John picked her to die. Or picked her to be part of the game and die. Then you have people like the other guy. Not John's neighbor, but the other guy. I can never remember his name. But basically, what makes him special is that not only did his actions kill people in the past now. That's the thing, that's the kicker. He killed people in the past, got away with it because he blamed the driver, and then basically lived the rest of his life with his head down in the sand because he didn't want to do and take part of anything because he didn't want to get in trouble ever again. John, like a crazy Twitter user looking for a reason to cancel somebody, went back through his entire history to find one thing he didn't like about him, and that's where that complex comes in at. When John's on a mission and he's got something to do, he will actively sort out the bad thing you did and then make it public. Now, isn't that sad, Twitter mob, that I am basically comparing y'all to the Jigsaw killer because of how y'all act on Twitter sometimes, because y'all want to flame war people and hashtag cancel this? Y'all are just like Jigsaw. Remember that next time you want to start a Twitter war. Y'all are just as psychotic and crazy as John Kramer. A fucking psychopathic, crazy person who puts people in traps and murders them. But that's what John does. He digs around and finds that one thing he don't like about you, that one thing that drives him crazy. Now, sometimes it's easier than others because there's certain things he don't like. He don't like it when people don't cherish their life. He don't like it when people cheat on their spouses, and he don't like it when you're a terrible parent to the kids. Those are like his three criteria, main motivations. You got all three of those? Eric Matthews. Yeah, no, you're kind of screwed. You're basically screwed. But then you have the other victim, who is the neighbor, who is also a revenge kill for John because of what she did. She is the epitome of a terrible human being. Not only did she kill her baby. She planted the baby next to her husband, making him think he rolled over on top of the baby and killed the baby. Dude went insane and then ended his own life. Yeah, and she got away with it scot-free, and John witnessed it all. That's the key element. That's what makes her different from the other revenge kill. The other guy affected John because of something he did to one of his family members. He witnessed what she did to her family and got away with it. Now here's where more of the complications of John come in at. John, at that moment, when he witnessed all of this, he could have come forth to the police and went like, hey, listen, she did it. I heard this. This is what I heard. But I get why he didn't, because his train of thought is, what's the point? She basically got away with it. The baby's already dead. Her husband's already dead. Cops don't care. She's just gonna get away with it. Who else can cast judgment and justice besides moi? That's a God complex right there. John had an opportunity to call the police and inform them of what he might know, and maybe got them thinking before the man hurt himself. But he didn't, because that God complex in him was just like, she might be good for this game. This might be that good contender right there. So, with that in mind, that's how John kind of picks some of his people out. He keeps those kind of stats when he chooses his victims to play these games. Like, you gotta be a terrible human being. But you can't just be nobody. Like, unfortunately, that's where Zep comes in at. I actually had to do a little research of why Zep, but when we get to Saw 1, we'll dive further into Jigsaw's whole thing with Zep. But, yes, with these 5 people, of course, we start with our first, ever practice game. This is where he really, gets to shine, but this is also where he learns a very valuable lesson about second chances. And this is why he gave Logan a second chance. It's not fair for him to be picked because of an accident. And that's something he keeps in mind, by the way. When picking contestants for his games, if you did something by accident, if it was like a complete fob, you owned up to it, my bad, I screwed up, I think he looks at that and he's a little bit more lenient. Now, if he catches you in this lie, that's a different story. But if it's the truth and you own up to it, John looks at that as a good human being, and he sees that when he noticed Logan then wake up in the beginning of the game. It wasn't fair that Logan got a late start because of the drugs in the system, because whatever drink he gave him, I guess, was too much for Logan or something. The point is, Logan didn't wake up, and John felt bad that he almost died for an unfair advantage. And the thing is, when it comes to the games, they're fair. They're fair. They're fair. They're solid square. A lot of people would argue, no, they're not. Yes, they are. All the games are fair. All of them. And John purposely created that way because of this. He wanted to have fairness within his game, to give you the proper motivation and the proper course to do what you got to do to survive. Again, I never said these traps are going to be easy. But he's got to put you through the ringer so you can get where he's coming from. You got to get close to death. You got to get hurt. And that's the whole point. That's why a lot of these games are very violent, very grotesque. Because he wants to put you close to death, so when you come back from it, you're reborn. But this also started a beautiful bond and a secret apprenticeship with Logan. Now, the interesting thing about Logan is, of course, we come back to him with Jigsaw at the end of the whole trilogy and shit. But what makes him interesting is that he was very, very influenced by John, by John's teaching. I mean, how he even apprenticed John for the construction of the bear trap. Now, unfortunately, we don't get to see him at all, and the whole reasoning is because he was off in an actual war that actually was going on in real time, by the way. But, you know, for movie continuity, he's at that war, and that's why he's been gone until Jigsaw. But with him, the teachings were so strong that he wanted to become Jigsaw. And again, we'll get there when we get closer to the end of the podcast, because that's more towards the end. But yeah, Logan was definitely influenced a lot by Kramer's decision, especially to save his life because of this one fatal mistake. But keep that in mind. And also, the magical number 5. You see a lot of numbers, a lot of games have like 5 for some reason. I don't know why John likes that number. But there were some good traps in there. Again, a lot of beatable traps. The traps they just straight up did. They should have listened. Again, one of the main thing is, I passed my test. Look at my leg. No, sir. That was because you didn't read not an exit. Like straight up, if John's right, not an exit, that's literally not an exit, bro. Like he ain't fucking with you. He's literally saying, no, this door's locked. You can't get through it. But nobody listens to John. So, after the first barn game, and John feels good because everybody did what he thought they were going to do, you know? Because unfortunately, nobody passed the game. Nobody passed. Everybody died. Horrible, painful deaths. Yeah, no, everybody. I was going to say, well, the guy who lost his leg, no, he slowly bled to death. And that's what makes his death a little interesting. Is because he lived his life doing nothing after killing a bunch of people. But that's how he died. Doing nothing. There was nothing he could do. The chick, the neighbor, took the gun, didn't listen to a word John said, and shot the gun, basically backfire, blowing it into her face, and breaking the only keys to get out. Because nobody listened. All she had to do was either point the gun at herself, or just be like, it ain't worth it. Now, I don't know how they were supposed to figure out to open up. Because the way people make it seem like is that the keys were inside the bullets. So I don't know how they were supposed to figure that one out. Maybe John would have came out and went like, well, the key to freedom is inside the bullets right there, or something like that. I don't know. The point is, she failed, he died. John felt pretty good about this. He's like, this was a good practice test. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm gonna need to run some more practice games because I didn't get the exact outcome, you know. A lot of trial and error here. So, unfortunately, because of a lot of trial and error, he slowly actually starts coming at him in some popularity, you know? People start getting to know him a little bit, you know? They kind of like this man. Some do, some don't. Like, seriously, the influence of people in the Saw franchise itself is kind of like a 50-50 split. You got the people who are like hardcore Jigsaw fans, understand what he's going at, and then you got the people who are just like, kill the bastard. Like, what the hell? Why can't the police catch him? Yeah, but we'll dive more into that when we get to the aspect of his full influence. Because at this time, he hasn't really done too many crazy traps. You know, of course he did the reverse bear trap. You know, we got the razor maze trap at this point. You know, all these traps are going on. And then you got Hoffman, who comes into play. Now we're falling into the Hoffman era. This is where Hoffman comes in. And again, I know what you're thinking. But Amanda, you haven't even got the Saw yet. How can we get the Hoffman? Again, flashback within the flashback, because we all know, because of what Hoffman said, and Kramer kind of confirms it, Hoffman's been working for him since day one. It's like Logan, then Hoffman, then Amanda. Right? Or is it Gordon, then Amanda? No, I think it's... No, I'm right. It's Logan, Hoffman, Amanda, then Gordon. But when it comes to Hoffman, he kind of flew under his radar. Because again, he's not following the rules of Jigsaw, which is cherish your life. He's not cherishing his life because his sister, unfortunately, was murdered in a domestic abuse situation. So, you know, he started drinking a lot, becoming a typical cop, police brutality, you know, very angry. Then got mad, and very justifully, like I would be mad too, that his sister killer was released on a technicality and got off, I think, after 2 years. He was supposed to serve like 25 years to life and only served like 2 years and then just basically walked out of prison. Free man. To kill again. Or so he thought. So he thought. It took less than a month. And Hoffman's like, boy. So Hoffman and his set for revenge against the murder of his sister put him in a trap to make it look like Jigsaw. Because again, Jigsaw is the hottest killer in the town. He's been uncatchable. And the fact that, you know, Hoffman, I think at the time he was kind of working on the case, kind of not. But they didn't want him working on this because it was the guy who killed his sister involved. And of course they had their speculations that it might have been him because this has been the first trap. And again, let me add emphasis on this. Even the cops noticed this was the first trap of Jigsaw's that was unbeatable. He pushed his hands through there and he actually beat the trap. But because Hoffman's thirst for revenge is so much stronger than Jigsaw's, the trap's unbeatable. That is why the cops question that, and that is why John gets very, very upset. So he kidnaps Hoffman and confronts him. Now this is what's very, very interesting. During this particular conversation they have, of course, remember, he's tied up in a chair with a shotgun underneath his chin. And his hands basically are tied to the trigger itself. So if he moves too much, boom, his head gets blown off, he's dead, we don't have to worry about it. And he gets confronted. Hoffman gets confronted. Now, of course, you know, Hoffman explains that it was his sister's killer and that he didn't deserve to live. He deserved to die. Kramer comes back with some more of his philosophy. Everyone deserves a chance. Killing is distasteful. And I like that because, again, it shows you the complications of Jigsaw. It shows you how he thinks. Murdering somebody is distasteful, but putting somebody in a psychological exposure trap that basically going to put them in a life and death situation, that's therapy. That's therapy. But killing somebody out of revenge, that's murder. That's distasteful. And that's what makes him a very interesting being to study. Because of the fact that he thinks murder is distasteful, but he puts people in this horrific trap. And I think that's why a lot of people say, well, he's a hypocrite. No, he's not a hypocrite. And I mean that. He's not a hypocrite. A hypocrite would be murder is distasteful and then stabs a guy and go, well, he failed his game. That is a hypocrite. He gives them the opportunity and the chance to survive. He's always had it. I even stated this several times. He's always given them the chance. Again, I never said they were going to come out unscathed. Nowhere in the game contract that you did not sign when you signed up for this game did it say, oh, when you escape the trap, you will be completely unharmed. No, he wants you to be in physical pain. In more ways than one. Because not only does that bring you closer to his idea of being rebirthed, but it's a reminder. Let's go back to Saw 7, one of my least favorite of the bunch. But there's a scene I particularly like in this movie, and it's the meeting scene. Granted, I don't like the fucking Bobby, whatever the fuck his name is, because he's a loser. But the point is, this game, or this meeting, is a bunch of people who survived his game. And one of the people in there was in the trap, A Pound of Flesh. If y'all remember that one. If not, let me refresh y'all's memory. A woman and a man were trapped in a room, one on one side, one on the other, and they both had to sacrifice enough pounds of flesh to get this device off their head. Otherwise, 2 drills are going to go into their skulls. And of course, he's a fat guy, and she's a skinny gal. So of course he's chopping off his fat and stuff, and she's got nothing. She's like me. I'll be screwed too. I'll be like, oh. So what does she do? She chops off her arm and sticks it in. And of course she survived. So we see her now, and she's got a prosthetic arm, and of course the only thing she's happy about is she gets handicap parking at the mall. That's the only thing she's happy about, and she ain't really happy about that. But the point is, she is constantly reminded every time she looks down at her arm about the greedy corporation she worked for, about that greedy insurance place she worked for. And maybe not to work for a place like that ever again, otherwise Kramer might come back. Jigsaw might come back and fuck you up even harder. And that is some pure psychological terror right there. And I like that because it's another aspect of John that kind of hammers in his idea of being infamous. He wants to live on. It's something even Logan's sister said in Jigsaw, that Jigsaw will live forever through his followers. Jigsaw will always live. As long as somebody survives his trap, they are a follower. They speak the words of Jigsaw. Jigsaw taught me so much. He taught me to get over my abusive relationship. He taught me to do this. He did this. He signed line on this. People who survive his trap either come out different, reborn, happy that they made it, change their outlook on life. And then you got people who are just terrified for the rest of their lives. But they're never going to do a single wrong thing ever again. I guarantee you that. Not one person would jaywalk, think about stealing a candy bar. Not a soul. Not a soul. Think about that. If you survived the Jigsaw trap, if I was ever that type of person to wind up in a Jigsaw trap and I survived somehow, yeah, no, I am going to be a saint. I will become a nun. I'm moving to a convent. Like, you would never hear another bad thing about me again. Like, straight up, John will have to hunt me down at a convent and send me a letter. Because I would simply say, I do not wish to speak to any man. I am that solvent. I would be that person. I honestly would be that person. Oh, but the point is, John finds a lot of what Hoffman did distasteful. He don't like it. He's not for it, but he wants to show him that there's a different way because he sees a little bit of himself in Hoffman. Because, again, Hoffman wanted revenge on the death of his sister. Well, Kramer wanted revenge for the death of his son. I think that's pretty fair trade. They both went through the same thing. The difference was he gave Cecil a chance to escape where Hoffman didn't. And that's where the parallels start happening. And where Hoffman thinks he's like Jigsaw, but he's not because of this. Because of how he handles his revenge. Amanda's got the same flaw. That's what makes a lot of these characters not pass his test. One of his biggest tests is, can you get past the revenge? Yes. You can have your revenge. You can put that person who did you and your family wrong in these traps, but if they succeed, are you going to let them walk out? Like you should, because that's the right thing to do. They passed your test, they redeemed themselves, they're reborn, they're never going to fuck up again. But Hoffman, don't do that. Hoffman does not. That is why he wants to teach them these ways. He said there are better ways. And he gives Hoffman a choice. And of course, he fucks with Hoffman and he pulls the trigger. And of course, there's an empty. There's no shot. There's no shell in that barrel. So, of course, typical Hoffman thinks John ain't gonna kill me. So he starts threatening old John over there. And again, this shows you how smart John is. John had a bullet loaded in case Hoffman turned on him. He was aware of the fact that this conversation can go one of two ways. It could be Hoffman's going to be like, you know what, bro? I see exactly where you're coming from. Put it there. Let's be partners. Or, you know what, bro? Fuck you. You're dead. Boom. problem solved. You don't have to worry about it. Hoffman's just another person underneath the table. That's not mindless murder. That is self-defense. That is John's way of thinking. And also cleans up a loose end. But because of this, and because of John, the way John speaks, again, his God complex speaking down to Hoffman, basically saying, the way you're doing it is wrong. My way is better. Let me teach you my ways, and you can become me. You can become infamous. And of course, Hoffman takes that deal. He has no choice. It's to a degree. He had no choice because Hoffman's just like, well, you could walk away. Yeah, you go back doing your normal thing, but I have a file on you, and if anything happens to me, well, that file's getting out. So, Hoffman's like, I got played this smart. You gotta keep John close to him, because John's gotta keep him close to him. And that makes any sense. Now we're slowly getting to the events of Saw, everybody. We're slowly getting there. So, of course, we get this epic little team up going on, and Hoffman is learning from the best, and he's, of course, taking the orders to frame Gordon, to get the cops looking at Gordon, to get him involved, because, of course, Gordon's going to be part of his test. And, of course, with Saw, the infamous game is the bathroom game. Now, what's the whole point of this particular test? So, of course, the person he is testing in this game this is his first official test to date. Not some of his like side traps and stuff like that. No, this is like one of those games he's like heavily involved in. This is one of those ones he wants to be in the room to watch, not just sit on the sidelines, look through a camera. He wants to make sure. He wants to see firsthand how people react in this situation. So that's why he drugs himself with a muscle relaxer and sleeps in the middle of his bathroom for the entire movie. That, and so we could get the epic plot twist when he stands up and Adam's just like, what the hell? But the reason why we have these characters. Let's go through this one at a time. With every character that gets tested in Saw. Of course, we have Amanda with her bear trap. She is technically the quote-unquote first victim to survive the whole ordeal with Jigsaw. And I don't know why I say air quotes around that, because technically she is the first victim. Everybody else has died. Nobody survived. She's technically the first one to make it. What makes Amanda special, and like I said earlier, I believe he knew Amanda was there. So this was him getting revenge. This is why he chose the bear trap to put that on Amanda. Not only is that a very painful trap, and it's very satisfying to watch, thank you, Saw 7. That's the only other good scene. I wish it wasn't on Jill. I like Jill as a character, but I was totally glad to finally see that bad boy in action. I'm not going to lie. When I saw that reverse bear trap actually kill Jill, I was just like, that was worth it. I'm not going to lie. That was worth 7 movies. That was worth it. Just that one death scene right there, boom, worth it to me. But Amanda, of course, she's, like I said, I think she's being tested because he knew she was there. And because she passed her test and she was renewed, he forgave her. Let me emphasize that. He forgave her. Not that she forgave herself or anything, because that's going to come back in Saw 3. But he forgave her once she passed that test. And then he proceeded to kind of show off his methods. He went to Jill. Look, it succeeded. She's not a druggie anymore. She's cured. She loves this. Like, come on, Jill. This is definitely where the future's at. Not this clinic medical bullshit. No, putting people in death games. This is where it's at. And he's very proud of that. He truly is. I don't blame him. I truly don't. But that's that ego boost he needs. That confidence he needs. That reminder of, hey, we got this. We're doing right. And that's what makes him dangerous. The fact that there's nobody here besides the people that he already hates telling him he's doing wrong. Nobody on his side is telling him he's doing wrong. They tell him, hey, don't do this. But it'll go, John, what you're doing, what you're talking about, it's madness here. Like, you have lost it. Nobody tells that to John. So that's that confirmation he needs to carry on with his deeds. Nobody stops him. And hell, the police can't even stop him. And that's what makes it even worse for everybody, and actually good for John, and actually boosts his ego a lot more. It's the fact that even the police can't stop him, because he is 2-3 steps ahead of the police. He's like, he's good at reading people's behavior. He knows what people are going to do. He calculates, okay, if you don't do this, he's definitely going to do that. And once he does that, he's going to do this and then hand over here, and he's going to wind up here. It's like a rat in a maze to him. He is the scientist. We are the rats in the maze, and the maze itself are the games and the traps. But yeah, when it comes to Amanda, she was the true successor to that first trap, so he was super proud about that, and he forgave her. That is why he took her under his wing, and she became like a surrogate child that he didn't get to have because not really she, but Cecil took that away from him. So he's now projecting that fatherly love and instinct upon Amanda, and what's also working in his favor is that Amanda is feeding into this because she needs a father figure, and that is what he becomes. And she even states it to Matthew in the tape. He became a father, a leader, someone she was willing to follow through hell and back. She had his back, and thus is why I don't think it was her doing the unbeatable trap, because she followed his teachings to a T. You even see it in Saw X, that she literally follows everything he says to a T because she wants to be a daughter to him and be something he could be proud of, and she could take on the mantle. It's literally like passing on daddy's business, and that's something she wants. So she's not gonna fuck it up because, just out of the blue. That's the thing. And that's why I don't think it was her and Saw 3 doing those unbeatable traps. That's why I still say it's Hoffman, not Amanda. Now, she was there to witness Carrie's death. And when we get to Saw 3, I'll explain that. But that is why I don't think it's Amanda who does these traps, because she's too much of a follower to John's teachings. John is a god to her. God is even an understatement. She worships this man. She idolizes this man because of what he did. And that, again, add fuel to the fire here to make John feel good. My teachings are doing this because it is correct. His teachings were working. As psychotic and as fucked up as that sounds, it was working. It was working in his favor. He was actually changing lives. It was Hoffman who ruined the whole damn thing. Damn you, Hoffman, for being such a terrible apprentice. Then you got Gordon. Now, Gordon was picked not only because of the fact that... So, remember how I told you John doesn't like certain types of people? Well, Gordon kind of fits that type of person. And basically, it's a guy who just throws himself into work, and he's very cold, and he's having an affair, and that's what John didn't like. John met Gordon. Remember, Gordon was his doctor when he got cancer. When he met Gordon, Gordon was just doing his job and just being cold, short, but you know what pissed John off? And this is something very interesting about why he picked Gordon. I want to say the main reason why he picked Gordon was because Gordon was the one that told him originally how many months he had left to live. Gordon was the first doctor to tell him, hey man, you're gonna die in a few months. Nothing you can really do. Get comfortable. Now, I know it sounds kind of familiar because the Saw X doctor said the same thing. This is why he did what he did in Saw X, going towards the New Mexico project. But we'll get there when we get to Saw X. Right now we're talking about Saw, about Gordon. But Gordon basically told him, hey man, you got like 6 months to live. Sorry. A doctor, a human doctor, just told this man who feels like God, this man who's on top of the world. Granted, he's dying, but he's on top of the world because his methods are working, things are falling into place. And he just got told, well, dude, you're dying. Sorry. That pissed him off. That pissed him off. Gordon is the revenge kill. Because Gordon told John what he didn't want to hear, which was, you're dying. You got like 8 months left, a year to top. I mean, seriously, how else is a god, basically, supposed to feel like? You know, you get told you're not immortal, man. You are dying. And that actually kind of adds more to John, because again, the whole infamous thing, the legacy thing, he wants to live forever, but he knows he can't. And Gordon is that cold reminder. So that's why Gordon is picked. That and the fact that you know he's a very cold doctor, very unfeeling, and he's having an affair. Granted, he doesn't know that he was going to end the affair, but that's the point. Then, of course, you have Adam. Adam is picked because he's a private investigator almost. Like he's sticking his nose in other people's business where it doesn't belong. He digs up trash on people. He's kind of like the scum of the earth to John to a degree, because he's picking up he's like a rat picking up trash. You know, anything to make a quick buck. And also the ties to Detective Tapp. I am very well aware of the fact that I'm sure John was aware that Adam was working with Detective Tapp to take the pictures of Gordon. Thus is why he picked Adam to be in the room. And then, of course, Tapp's involved in this movie because his partner was killed while they were chasing after Jigsaw. And Jigsaw specifically said, hey man, chase after me or let this man die. Well, they thought they could be a smart ass and just shoot it and then chase after John like there's no tomorrow, not realizing we're in his lair with the smartest man who's been able to elude police all this time, putting people in elaborate traps. You don't think, and also, if I may add this, before they went into this building, if I remember correctly, at some point, officers got hurt. I don't remember if it is the first movie, but there is a scene where there's a bunch of cops going up a flight of stairs in one of Jigsaw's places. He traps them in there, and it cuts off their freaking ankles or something. Like, he hurts them badly. And yet, no one's taking precautions to go around this place? How is that John's fault? You know what you're walking into. But the point is, Singh chased after John and fell into a shotgun trap, and unfortunately Tapp attacked John and got his throat slit a little bit. Now he's fine though, but he went crazy. He literally went crazy. Even in the game, sadly, poor Tapp, I'm gonna be honest, Tapp did not get a happy ending no matter how you slice it and dice it. Whether you want to end his term in Saw 1 or you want to end him in one of the games, no matter how you slice it, he did not have a good life. Then you have, of course, Zep. Zep, sorry, not Zep, Zep. The reason why he chose Zep was because, first, he needed someone to be the patsy in a way. He needed the face to the game. Because John is anticipating in his own way. He's being part of this game by being the body in the middle of the floor. That is John. He gave Zeke the power because he knows that he is that type of guy who does nothing with his life. And that is what I mean by John stretches to find a reason to pick some people. He looked at him and said, this man's doing absolutely nothing with his life. Is that a crime? No, that is not a crime. But that is you not cherishing your life. You're not living your life to the best. You're just there. You exist. What's the point of being alive if you just exist? You're not an NPC, and that's why John picked him. He's trying to remind him, you're not an NPC. You have the power. Here is the ring. And you see that in the movie. Once John gave him the power, remember how crazy he got with Diane and stuff? You know, the whole steps thing, when he put the gun to the head, he was hearing the heartbeats and stuff. That was him drunk on the power that John gave him. And John just wanted to see how that played out. You know, whether he lived or died, that didn't matter. He wasn't the test subject in the game. He was just a pawn in the game. And funny enough, so was Adam. Adam technically could have gotten at... Okay, let me rephrase this. If Amanda didn't just throw the damn key in the tub and actually put it to the side or something, he could have got out at any point. He could have unlocked this. Now, he could have got out of the room because the door was locked from the outside, but that still would have added interesting dynamic to the game, and that's what John was coming in at. That's why the key was in the tub. A lot of people ask, if they were locked up, why did he give Adam the key and then have him get flushed down the tub? Because originally the plan was he takes the key, unlocks it, and then that gives Adam the free mobility to move around, but not Gordon, which could have added interesting dynamic why they were fighting. Because again, Gordon's got to kill Adam, but he's restrained. Adam has to stay alive and escape, but he's freely to move around. So he can actually threaten Gordon at some point. He can actually take advantage of Gordon. But it didn't play out like that because Amanda threw the damn key in the tub, and then the key went down the poor drain, and nobody told Jigsaw about this. And unfortunately, I guess Jigsaw assumed he got out, and Amanda felt guilty, and it's just like, well, I think it'll finish him off real quick. But we'll get to Saw too. Actually, no. Let's talk about that now. So, yeah. Now, the reason why Adam got left is because of the whole situation. I don't know if he knew Adam couldn't get out and nobody told him. Because you gotta remember, he was drugged up this entire time with a muscle relaxer. So he probably doesn't know about half the shenanigans that was going on because he's probably in and out of consciousness. I don't know how these muscle relaxers work. It's not like I ever tested this shit out myself. If anybody knows, please let me know. But I feel like he would be somewhat disoriented and delusional a little bit coming out of that state. And then, of course, you know, he says the epic line, game over, and shuts the door. Now, the real question is, did he lock the door? I'm pretty sure he did. So, if Adam didn't grab the key and get out, I don't know how he's supposed to get out. I really don't. I don't know why John left him. My suspicion is, like I said, he wasn't part of the game. He was just a pawn. He was a pawn. But because Amanda fucked up and he was off of drugs, you know, the muscle relaxers, he didn't put two and two together. That was just a hindsight on his end, you know, just overlooked. He wasn't paying attention. Or you could look at it as John just saw him as a pawn and was just like, well, I'm done with you. Close the door, game over. You could look at it like that because, again, John's a complicated person. And if you think about that in the dynamic, that kind of shows you kind of a sickening perspective of John, that once your usefulness of the game is up, whether you live or die, he don't care. He don't, because your usefulness to him is gone. Like, he's done. Now, does he want to watch you die? No. But are you part of this game? Not really. You're just the pawn to escalate the situation. That's what made Adam such an interesting character. And unfortunately, again, Amanda messed up his chances and she felt guilty. Now, this is where a lot of people think that Amanda is the reason why some of these tracks are raised, because she killed Adam. The reason why she killed Adam was because he was going to die anyway. The key's down the tub. I don't think they have a backup key for some strange reason. Don't ask me why nobody has a fucking backup key. Which reminds me, they don't have a backup key. How did they get Hoffman in the chains in Saw 7? Did Gordon actually just make up a key and just, like, I don't know. I don't know why Amanda didn't release him, didn't get the backup key. But Amanda felt guilty about the whole situation, that he was going to starve to death anyway. She mercy killed him. She didn't want to, but she mercy killed him. Again, I still think, you could have found a copy of the key, but I guess hindsight's 2020. Hindsight's 2020 in this situation. But what's also interesting about Adam, this is where we're going to talk about the following of Jigsaw. So, after the whole bathroom game, we know Gordon survives. We know Gordon chops his foot off, he crawls out, Adam's left to die, Amanda kills him later, somewhere before the incidents of Saw 2. Gordon's nursed back. Jigsaw continues to do his games. And of course, there's this whole, Dateline mystery thing on him about the incidents of that prior, of the bathroom game. Of course, there's been many other games after the fact, a lot of interviews, people asking questions. And this is where the people get divisive about whether they like Jigsaw or whether they don't. Of course, you got the people who sit here and go, well, who is Jigsaw to be judge, jury, and executioner? Who is Jigsaw to think he's above the law? Who is Jigsaw? And then you got the people who see what Jigsaw is doing, like his followers, the people who survived the games, and other people who just want to ask these questions, but they're not asking them right. And this is where a guy, and this is a fun little bonus feature in the Saw 2 movie, by the way. The guy's name is Scott Tibbs. And the reason why I'm bringing him up is because not only does he have ties in with Adam, because apparently they were friends since high school, or since diapers, according to him. He gets obsessed with Kramer's teachings, to the point that he thinks he could survive this. He thinks he has the will to live. He wants to challenge himself and put himself in these traps. The thing is, he's a douchebag, so his friends purposely let him go through this shit and get himself killed. I'm not gonna lie, he dies at the end of his little 15-minute mini-movie documentary he was making, because he puts himself in a stupid-ass trap. He literally basically ties himself into a chair, gets his friends to tie himself to a chair, and he's got to cut the tape off with a saw and get out in time before an axe drops into his chest. Well, he gets tied up, and of course his friends do it too tightly, and his friends just go, well, we're gonna let you just play out the last 5 minutes of your life, and they start packing up to leave, and of course he's like, where are y'all going? And then eventually gets himself killed because he doesn't make it out of his trap in time. It's fucking hilarious. I didn't feel sorry for that man at all, because he was a douche. The point that I'm making is, because of Jigsaw's games and the influence he has on people are willing to put themselves in dangerous situations to see if they have what it takes to become a disciple of Jigsaw. It's not to the extent that a lot of people are doing this, because again, Scott Tibbs is that type of person, and he's like 1 out of every 50 of these crazy Jigsaw followers. But the point is, Jigsaw has that ability to influence people to think about it themselves, to go, do I have what it takes to survive? Do I have what it takes to be a victim of Jigsaw? Let me see that. And that's crazy to think about. The fact that Jigsaw is that influential, that people are willing to test out his own theories out. And that's power. And again, that adds to his legacy, his immortality, as he likes to put it. And this is where the opposite end of the coin comes in at. You got the people who think they can, hey, let me see if I can't pass these tests. And you got people like fucking Bobby Dagan, whatever the fuck his name is. I don't like this guy. This man sees the trauma that Jigsaw is doing, the publicity of the victims surviving the incidents, and how they're coming unscathed and changed, that he decides, I'm going to pretend to be a victim. I'm going to pretend that I survived these traps, so I can pretend that I'm part of this group too. We're all in this together. You know what that reminds me of? I don't know if y'all remember it, but I do. During 9/11. Of course, you know, a lot of people, you know, survived the incident and was talking about it. There was a particular woman who claimed she worked in one of the towers and that her fiance worked in the other tower that got hit first. And that he died, she barely made it out. A fireman had to pull her out. And of course, you know, this is a beautiful story of a survival tale of how she made it out. And she, of course, she's got all this publicity going on. She's making charity events. She's going to news interviews and talking about her experiences. And this goes on for years. Turns out, none of it was true. None of it. She made the whole thing up for publicity. And that is basically what Bobby did. He took the tragedy situation and ran with it, and that is why I do not like Bobby. He's a nasty individual, and I hate the game. I hate the game. I hate it. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. Trust me, I'm gonna get there. Because I hate Seven with a passion, especially after I find out some more information that actually ties in with John. That would have made the movie so much more better, and it would have made John even cooler. But we're carrying on now to Saw X, which is the prequel sequel in between Saw 1 and 2. Now with Saw X, of course, this is at the point where John got that will to live. You know, he got his first game done. He's got notoriety now. People know who he is. People are talking about him. He feels good. Good for him. Really, good for him. Good for John. But of course, he's still dying. So because William, his insurance company, said that, no, we're not going to let you, you know, go to Norway and do this crazy procedure. He reaches out and does it anyway, because he gets a cold reminder from another doctor. He's only got X amount of months to live. But that will to live is very strong for John, so he decides to seek alternative methods. So of course this lovely woman says, oh, we have fantastic state-of-the-art, highly new treatment that could cure your incurable cancer. Trust me, give me money and we can help you. And these scammers had this whole elaborate thing going on. Like, it's to the point that I actually believe these motherfuckers too. I was like, this is a well thought out operation. But we all know how that song and dance goes. They're scammers. They're scamming dying people. And that's why John targets them. Not only is this whole game just revenge in general because you fucked him over, like you're not just fucking over, you know, the rich dying, the rich and the dying. Let me rephrase that. You fucked over John, who is the one man you don't want to fuck over. Because here's the sad factor here. When he went and did the testing, and he survived magically, or he thought he survived, he actually thought for a moment not to become Jigsaw, not to pursue this passion. He was actually contemplating whether or not to go back to the States, a changed man, another rebirthing, if you might say. So he was, you know, actually thinking about just being a normal human being. Stop the Jigsaw thing and just enjoy life. Now that he had a purpose, he had a reason to live, he could do other things and didn't have to make this whole immortality thing come to fruition. No, he could do something with his life. But when it turned out to be a lie, when it all turned out to be a false, lying, bullshit of a scam, he was just like, okay then, we're going to get some revenge and we're going to see if any of these people deserve a second chance at life. They deserve redemption. If this is horrible, y'all horrible people. So of course he brings Amanda in, and Hoffman in, and as I said, when people survive, yeah, these people were horrible people, like the taxi driver who lied to him and got him, that took him to these areas, who was also involved in the scam, survived his trap, gave him the information, and he made sure he lived. He had medical treatment right there. He brought in a little black bag, was like, hey man, let me stitch you up. You survived your traps. Congratulations. Like he did the whole congratulations thing like he did with Amanda, you know, patted her on the back, you know, took care of her. He did the same thing here. Same thing. And how he wanted to do that with Gabriella, if we remember, when she survived her trap, where she, got out of the x-ray. But no, that stupid bitch had to kill her because, stupid bitch had to be a stupid bitch. But you see where John Gaines really, and his pre-planning really come into play here. Because not only did he plan out this entire elaborate game in this factory that they set up the whole farce surgery that they did on him as a kind of ha-ha, but the fact that he knew she had a secret partner because of Hoffman and probably the other guy, and mainly probably the taxi driver informing him about this. But the point is, he knew that this guy was with the girl. Like, he knew. He just straight up knew. And that's why he gave him a chance when he broke in and he played along thinking, oh, you're just a guy who just wants his money back. Okay, we're going to see if you're actually going to watch my games and understand where I'm coming from, or if you're going to be part of this game. And what do you know? He saw this shit coming, knew that he was not going to be was not going to let him finish his game, and was going to be part of the game. That's why he had that little boy teach him the word pool, or not pool. What was the word that he got that boy to teach him? Yeah, because he planned for that boy, or actually, to be honest, I don't think it was the boy per se. I think he had a suspicion. It was either going to be the boy, or it was going to be Amanda. It was going to be one of the two. He was hoping for Amanda, but the child had to be in danger somehow, and we had to give John a kind of come to Jesus moment. We had to make that. Is John really going to sacrifice himself for a kid? Which, again, Saw X is a prequel sequel. We know John makes it. I don't know why they try to keep that like a mind-blowing of a secret or something. But the point is, John thought about this shit to the point that he knew the boyfriend or whatever was going to show up and was going to try to save the girl. That's why he had the fake money bag up there, and he had the whole room trapped up. So when he went up there, he was prepared. And again, that shows you just how smart John is, how he literally is playing 4D chess with everybody. That's why no cops can catch him. They're playing checkers. He's playing 4D chess with Stephen Hawking AI bot. That is Kramer in a nutshell. But what makes Saw X interesting and adds more development and actually hammers in the fact that Amanda is a loyal follower to the end is that father-daughter relationship you see develop in this movie. Like, I didn't think I wanted to feel for John, but when John was talking to Amanda going, Amanda, I'm dying. I need you to accept this. Because, again, once he got told that the treatment was fake, he accepted the fact he was dying and that this was what he was going to do to continue on his legacy, these games. He already set in stone. And again, like I said, there is nobody here to stop him. Nobody's looking at John going, John, what you're doing is crazy, man. You got to stop. He's just got people backing him up going, no, John, you right, man. Because, again, to a degree, his traps and methods work. But again, he's just psychotic. But I like that in this movie, you see this beautiful dynamic between Amanda and John, and it just enforces the fact that, again, I don't think in 3 she did those damn traps. But now, with Saw X, I think we're going to slowly start moving into the Saw 2 territory now. So now he's coming back from his trip, and we get with John as he's going after a big problem on his end. And with John's big problem is, of course, the injustice of the police department. We know these guys are not good. And I guess the entire time while John was setting up his trap in New Mexico and having fun down there, the police brutality was getting out of hand in New Jersey. And that is why he picked Eric Matthews. Now, Eric's that trifecta that I was talking about. He is not only a dirty cop who put people away for crimes they didn't commit, such as Amanda. He framed her for a crime she didn't commit and made her into a junkie. And my boyfriend asked me, he was like, how does that make sense? How does her being arrested for having heroin or meth or something on her and then taking her to jail make her a druggie? I think it's just the cycle of being in prison or in jail for crimes like that, you know? You can say, hey, I wasn't selling methamphetamine, but there are people in jail who see that this is why you got locked up, so they assume you either like it and you want some, or they're gonna make you have some. Addictive personalities. Exactly. And Amanda, I don't know if y'all heard him, but let me clarify. He said addictive personalities attract to addictive personalities, which is true. And Amanda, when locked up, you know, being basically told, you're wrong, you're a druggie, and she didn't do anything, she's gonna flock to the crew that's just like, hey, yeah, we're the same, you know, we're totally not druggies either. Come hang out with us, here's some drugs, you know? So, unfortunately, Eric kind of put himself in the crossfire of John's gang because of this, and because Amanda, I want to say Amanda also helped pick them out. It wasn't just the police brutality. I think Amanda might have had a hand in saying, hey, John, I think this guy might be fun for a game or two. But another one, another trifecta is, like I said, he's a bad dad. He's a horrible dad. Horrible dad. Like, he is having illicit affairs. That's why he's divorcing his wife, which is the third trifecta of why John doesn't like him. But he's just initially a bad dad. And John takes that personally because, again, he lost the ability to be a dad to a degree. Like, he cannot raise his son, and he's watching this man basically treat his son like garbage, like he doesn't exist. Like, okay, you're doing bad stuff. Instead of sitting down and talking to his son like, son, why are you lashing out this way? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? He's just, get over it. You know, move on, be a man, all this BS. And John don't like that. John does not like that. So John, of course, picks him to be part of this game, and he calls him out personally. And of course, that's oh God, what was it? Cherish your life or follow your heart. It was something like follow your heart. And like basically, he called him out, like wrote out his name in what we remember at the Venus Flytrap game. But in this particular movie, one of the lines that add more information, more in-depth things about John, and again, I think I made a mention about this, is his perspective on people surviving in the games. Those who don't appreciate life don't deserve life. Now, what does John mean by that when he says those who don't appreciate life don't deserve it? It goes back to why he picked people like Zep, like people who don't do anything with their life. Again, it's him reaching for a reason to pick you for a game, but to him, it's a reason nonetheless. Is it a good reason? No. But when it comes to a psycho like John, somebody who's finding a reason to put you in the game, he doesn't need a big-ass reason. Now, it does help when there's a glaring big neon sign of the reason why he doesn't like you and why you're part of that game. But sometimes he's got to do a little digging. He's got to be like, okay, let me find this. Okay, here's a situation about 20 years ago. There we go. Again, like a Twitter mob looking for a reason to cancel somebody. What did they say 20 years ago? Holy shit, they're the same person. Again, guys, remember, I am comparing the Twitter mob to John Kramer. Just have fun with that knowledge. Have fun. But Eric is unfortunately, he's an interesting candidate for a test. So let me explain. So we know the Saw 2, the whole thing is the Nerve House game. It's Nerve House. The game is for Daniel. This is Eric's test. And what I mean by that is, remember I told you, you have the test, You had the game and you had the trap. The trap was within the game, and the test is before the game that you deserve to be in the trap. The test was, Eric, all you got to do is sit here and talk to me for roughly 2 hours or so, and your son would be here safe and sound. All you had to do is not do your police brutality. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with me. Let's talk like men. Very simple, very easy to accomplish. Not for Eric, though. Eric, hot-tempered, very hot-headed, very, police brutality kind of person. So he fails his test. Now, once he fails that test, that means he's in the game. But because John has a little apprentice, Amanda, who has now shown herself to, maybe really take the challenge of doing a game herself, he passes Eric on to Amanda. Let me explain. So remember how the movie goes. Eric has the conversation. He sees Daniel's in trouble, thinking Daniel's about to die because they go underneath the house where the bathroom game took place. And so he beats the shit out of his Jigsaw. Jigsaw goes, game over, and then takes him to Amanda. Now, he doesn't know what Amanda's going to do in the house. He just knows Eric failed his test, pass it on to Amanda, let her test him, because not only is this revenge for her, because again, he never had a problem with revenge, just this taste for murder, he's going to let her have this game. Eric was supposed to be the first tester of her game to see if she could be the new Jigsaw. And unfortunately, she failed. She failed. Let me explain. You find out in Saw 3 that Eric did somehow survive and got out of the situation. So remember when we last left Eric, he's chained up in the same bathroom for some reason. Again, I guess she found the spare key that she couldn't find for Adam. That if he got a new chain, one of the two. I didn't really check. I probably should have double checked that to see if they actually got a new chain. Or if, that's actually a good question. If anybody knows that, please let me know. So go back and rewatch the Saw movies, Saw 2 and 3, and see if the chain's still around Adam's leg, or that's the same chain. Because now I gotta know. That's the one thing I didn't do research on. I gotta know why didn't Amanda. Maybe if I ever do a video about Amanda herself, maybe I'll look into that. But the point is, Eric was supposed to be her test, and he made it out of the game. I don't know exactly what the game was set up to be. She locked him in the bathroom in the dark and said, game over, closed the door. I'm assuming he was supposed to saw off his leg. She left the saw right there and crawl out like Gordon did. Because she didn't lock the door, because he walked out, or let me rephrase that, he hobbled out after he took the toilet lid and broke his foot because he didn't want to cut off his leg. Which is understandable. I wouldn't want to do that shit either. I give Gordon props for doing that. But he really had a reason to live. Like, he wanted to be there for his children. His wife was in danger. He was like, I'm getting to my family. That was the will to live right there. Like I said, the will to live. And Eric, he's got that too. But he's smarter about it. He takes the toilet lid, breaks his foot. And now this is what's interesting. He passed his test because he's not worried about getting revenge on the man. The first words out his mouth as soon as he comes out that bathroom is Daniel, his son's name. Daniel, where are you? He's worried about his son because he doesn't know if his son's okay. He don't know that his son was in the room he left in a safe waiting for him. He didn't know this. Amanda did, but Amanda was not anticipating him to get done with his test so quickly, so she beat him thinking she left him for dead. Now John, realizing it's taking her too long to set up this game, realizes something ain't right, so calls in Hoffman to go check on everything. And that's when Hoffman discovers Eric is unconscious on the floor. And that's when he realized, something ain't right here. Amanda didn't do it right. Amanda didn't do it. She let the revenge get to her. Okay. We're going to try this again. We're going to try this one more time. And that is literally his train of thought, because that's where we come in with Saw 3. That is where we come into Saw 3. Amanda failed her apprenticeship. You know, she was given the chance to show she could take charge and be leader, and she couldn't, because she let her revenge, like Hoffman, get in the way. Jigsaw saw this and was just like, no, I think I see the problem here. It's not Eric, it's her. And he means it as she can't deal with herself. And let me explain. There's an underlying theme when it comes to Saw 3 and 4. Because remember, Saw 3 and 4 take place on the same day, same game, or so let me phrase that, same day, different games. Same day, different games, different contenders. But there's an overarching theme, not just revenge, but it's let go. Either let go of the obsession, which is where Saw 4 comes in at, or let go of the guilt and forgive yourself. And I think that's what the whole game for Saw 3 for Amanda was forgiving herself. Not for the traps, because again, she had nothing to do with the traps. And like I said, she's no saint. She is no saint. But we'll get there in a second. But John knew Amanda can't forgive herself. Because again, she went after the revenge thing. She thought she killed Eric, but she never could tell John the truth. She never even told John about that. And it wasn't until part 3 where she confessed, I killed Eric. And he's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. I know more than you think. No, you didn't. But John sees Amanda take that revenge and kind of run with it. So he knows she cannot forgive herself for what she did to Gideon. She still blames herself. You know, she still feels guilt about that situation with Gideon. Like, she personally does. And it bothers her. That's why when Hoffman blackmailed her with that letter, it broke her, and why she was willing to do what he said. Because she didn't want to tell Kramer. And he was basically telling her without telling her, I forgive you, forgive yourself. And you see that throughout the entire dialogue, especially near the end of the movie, where he explains that she didn't kill Eric, that she needs to let go, that it's okay. And Amanda can't let go. Like, she doesn't want to let John down because John is her father, her hero, her leader, her teacher. She doesn't want to let him down. But unfortunately she is. And that's the sad factor, is that John had that suspicion. John knew, because John had his self face. John knew if he failed Amanda, he failed. That was it. That game over for him. Because he knew at this point in Saw 3, he's dying. Like, dying. Like, he's got maybe days left to live. That's why he calls in Gordon to be like, hey, man, do you have, like, a good doctor I can get that crack my skull open so I can, you know, have a few hours to finish my game? And that is why. But let's go over the players for the game real quick. Of course, this is all about Amanda's game, about forgiveness. She's the one being tested here. It's all her game. Again, the other guy is also another test subject, but he's not the test subject. He's like the secondary test subject. Of course, you got Dr. Lynn. She's the pawn. She's there to keep John alive, but also, remember how I told y'all the original plan for the bathroom game was the key and Al was supposed to be moving around? So the original plan, before Amanda fucked everything up, and I know she did because John stated it when she shot Lynn, you doomed 4 people to die. You have guaranteed 4 people's deaths. And I didn't realize that until I paused the movie and counted how many people were in that room, that he was correct. 4 people died because of Amanda's choice. John died, Amanda died, Lynn died, and her husband died because of Amanda's choice. And Amanda's choice was because of the letter of the blackmail And that is the whole reasoning why she does what she does, because of the blackmail. She doesn't want to confront, or not confront, but tell John she was there and she feels guilty. That's why Hoffman has that over her. Now, the reason why Hoffman is doing this is because her and Hoffman don't like each other. It's obvious from the get-go they do not like each other. Hoffman doesn't like competition. Hoffman does not like Amanda. You know, she's not as good as the original, because he don't know about Logan. He don't know about Gordon. He thinks he's the OG. He's the badass. He's the one and only. You know, Amanda's second fiddle. Amanda shouldn't be in charge. She should just be a follower. That is why he's egging onto her, but she eggs onto him going, well, you're going to be tested too. Because she's already been tested. She's already fulfilled the test. She even started doing the things like Jigsaw. She put herself in the game, like in the Saw 2, mainly to make sure that the rules are followed. And that's also another reason why John watches. I want to say I made a mention of that, of why he watches, is to make sure the rules are being followed. But Amanda is trying to mimic John, and so is Hoffman. And you see that throughout the movies as well, that they try to mimic John's action, but they can never be John. Because the revenge aspect. They can't let go, and they're not really listening to his teachings. They see that they basically want to play God. They don't want to follow the rules of God, but they want to play God. And that's the problem. John's got rules. That's what makes him even scarier, is the fact that he has rules. He has purpose and meaning to do certain things, and you got to follow these rules. They don't want to follow the rules, though. Amanda, she did for a while. She did until Hoffman started blackmailing her. Hoffman never wanted to follow the rules to begin with. He just wanted to play God. I don't know why I was lumping Amanda in there, because she doesn't necessarily want to play God either. She wants to be like John. She's more like John, where Hoffman just wants to be John. And that's where they're different. Again, there's a difference between playing God and following the rules of being God. And unfortunately, Hoffman does not get that memo, and he thinks he's above that, so that's why he's taunting Amanda to do what she has to do. And basically, the letter says to kill Lynn. He wanted Amanda to fail her test, because he knew if Amanda failed her test, and this is scary now, but stay with me on this. I have a feeling he knew if Amanda failed his test that John was going to die. That means he got to take over. He knew John was going to die. That's how psychotic Hoffman is, or can be. Again, we're not doing a whole study on Hoffman, we're doing one on John. But it shows you kind of how similar he is to John, mindset-wise, and that's why John picked him, is because they think very much alike. And with that in mind, I do believe he set Amanda up to fail on purpose so everybody would die. Because I think the way the game was supposed to play out, if Hoffman wasn't involved, Lynn's husband shows up. Amanda's there. Lynn is there. Amanda can talk to Lynn's husband and explain to him, he's like my father. You know, forgive him, you know, all the shenanigans, because this is basically his game about forgiveness, about letting go of the fact that his child died and that his murderer got away with it. And that is why we witness all these awesome games. You know, the rat, the pig farming, you know, drowning in pig blood, the frozen pipe thing. These are all people he blamed. And you can see at first he wanted some of these people to die. But then slowly he started coming around and wanted to save them. And then eventually he forgave them. So this would have worked, by the way. So this would have worked. So he would have shown up. Amanda would have done some beautiful spiel about, you know, this is, John's like my father, you know, please, please. And then John could have been like, you know, forgive me. And then, of course, Lynn would have been there alive and went, you know what, you know, listen to him, you know, and then they gave them some of the talks that they had. And eventually, he would have forgave John and would have been like, okay, you know what, game over. We all succeed, shake hands, go get your daughter, man. It all would have played out nicely the way John wanted it and the way it should have worked out. But I don't think John thought about the probability of Hoffman all the way. Like, granted, he knew Hoffman. And he knew what Hoffman was capable of. That's why he had all these contingency plans in case Hoffman went off the rails. But I don't think he fully I think he underestimated Hoffman just a little bit, thinking we're so much alike, maybe he'll come around. But unfortunately, Hoffman set in motion terrible, terrible things. And he basically set in motion for all the fake traps. And let me go back to what I was saying about Amanda not being the innocent party. So we all know about Carrie, right? The detective who was on the lead and very close to cracking the identity and whereabouts of John. The reason why she was picked was Amanda picked her, of course. Amanda picked her to be part of the game. I think Hoffman told her about the trap, but also told her that it was unbeatable, so that's why she showed up to watch it. She didn't put her in the trap, because even Hoffman, I think, makes the statement that Amanda couldn't put Carrie up there, so that's why, there's that second apprentice thing going on. But we know Hoffman's the one that put her up there. And Hoffman put her in the trap. Hoffman designed the trap. I'm going to stand by that. So that's a hill I'm willing to die on. Now, Hoffman designed all these traps. Amanda just watched her die because she wanted to make sure Carrie didn't make it. And to make sure John was safe. That is why I said she's not an innocent bystander on this. She knew the traps were unbeatable. She could have held Carrie out, but she refused. She did because she wanted to make sure Carrie died. Revenge to keep him safe. To keep John safe, she wanted to make sure Carrie died. And that's a sad thing. That is a sad thing. That Hoffman probably was slowly corrupting Amanda, but John's teaching was very, very in her ear. That's why she never did the traps herself. And a lot of people like to say, what about the classroom trap? You really want me to believe that Amanda, again, we all made a comment that she could not pick Carrie up, who was probably just a little bit heavier than Amanda, and put her up on that rack. You want me to believe that she carried that man, that big-ass man, into a room, put all those heavy metal chains through his body? Because, again, we know Gordon helped out, but I don't think Gordon helped out on this plan. Not on this trap. But you're telling me Amanda did all that and welded the door shut? No. No, this says Hoffman. The fact that Hoffman took a souvenir, he took a fucking souvenir. Yeah, no, Hoffman did that trap. That was not Amanda. That was all Hoffman. 100%. And I would die on that hill. But after Dr. Lynn, let's go to the people for Saw 4 now. Of course, we got Art Blank, which is his business partner, or ex-business partner. He's involved for two reasons. One, he's in the game because John don't like him anymore, because he starts representing bad people and getting them scot-free out of crimes they committed. And that's a no-no, of course, evil lawyer bullshit. But he's also a Zep character. He's the proxy for the face of the game, because he is basically Hoffman's face. Because again, Hoffman's trying to be like John and put himself in the game to make himself look innocent. Because the way his game plays out is if Detective Riggs, which that's the other guy in this whole situation, if Riggs can stop playing hero, he's got a hero complex and he's got to constantly save people to the point that he's never home and he's ruining his relationships. So he's a great candidate, and also the revenge aspect because he used to work with Hoffman, I want to say. But everybody in these games worked with Hoffman at one point. Eric's in the game. He was one of Hoffman's partners, I want to say, and Riggs worked with him as well. But the whole point is Riggs has to give up this obsession with Jigsaw. And again, you notice all the games were fucking rigged to begin with. Mainly, we're looking at that disgusting man motel room scene. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube. But the point is, the guy who liked children, that trap, yeah, he deserved that 100%. Glad he didn't make it. 100%. And I'm glad he couldn't put himself through that damn trap. But you notice it was also Riggs setting up a lot of these traps as well to make it look like, you know, he was a apprentice at one point as well. The point is, the entire games that Hoffman created here, and I want to say these are Hoffman games, because this feels like more of Hoffman style than it does Kramer style, because some of the trap designs are more elaborate and less likely for you to survive in, and also the fact that it's Riggs setting these up. It's him. He's not in the traps. He's setting up the traps or helping people get out of these traps. Kind of like Jeff. That's Lynn's husband's name, by the way. Jeff. His name's Jeff. Doesn't matter though. He's dead. Yeah, I said it. He's dead. But Hoffman's whole game is to basically cover it as see if he can't pull a jigsaw, see if he can't redeem these people. And Art is the face for Hoffman and make sure the game goes smoothly and nobody jumps the gun. Unfortunately, everybody fails because Riggs literally could not hold on 1 fucking second. He couldn't hold that nut in for 1 second. He busts in the door. Eric shoots him because he wants to live. Because the door activates, Eric's head gets crushed with a big thing of ice, making Hoffman look like he died. Riggs kills Art, and Riggs basically bleeds to death from his wounds from Eric. And he gets told he failed his test because he let the obsession get to him to the point that he literally could not wait 91 minutes. The whole game was 90 minutes long. He couldn't wait 91 minutes. The man was too much of a hurry. But you see with like I said, you see with Hoffman's traps, though, that they kind of resembled a lot of Jigsaw's traps. You can see where slowly Jigsaw was kind of passing the torch on to Hoffman, where Hoffman was doing more designs that he likes. Again, the angel, what was it called? It's Carrie's trap. It's crap, where is it? The angel trap, that's it. The angel trap, that's his design. The classroom, his design. Some of the traps in this game, I think, are part of his design and also part of Kramer's design. Again, Kramer really couldn't do a lot of shit because he was on his deathbed at this point. But you can definitely tell it's Hoffman doing a lot of these, and he's the one in charge of this game. And again, that's why 4 is kind of iffy for me because of the fact that it's all Hoffman's game. It's a Hoffman game, but it still ties in nicely with the rest of the Gideon games. Because the Gideon games, it was a good double feature. It really is a good double feature. But after everyone fails and everyone dies, you're thinking, where do we go from here? John's dead now. John's dead. But this shows you how clever this man is. Like I said, he's got a contingency plan for everything. And he was aware of the fact that Amanda might fail her test. So if Amanda fails her test, that means Hoffman's now in charge. So Hoffman take lead. Amanda, unfortunately, we're not going to make it. So what does he do? He makes videos. And he makes these videos in Saw 3 because you look at the background, it's the same room in Saw 3. And the same haircut, too, he had before he got shaved and got his skull opened up. The point is, John, before he died, not only set up 2 videotapes, one for Jill, one for Gordon, but he also set up 2 more games. He gave one specifically to Hoffman, which is the some people call it the Fatal 5 game. I call it the 5 scammer games because the whole premise of the 5 scammers is these people let an apartment building burn down for their own benefits, and people died. People died. They got rich. People died. And they all knew about it, and they all worked together. And the whole premise of the game, and the theming around this particular game, is everybody work together. Everybody hold hands and work together. But the game really doesn't matter. You know, the game's all right. You know, some of the traps are interesting, but the fact of the matter that nobody really put the fact that everyone had to work together, especially during the trap where they had to shatter the glass and get the keys to go in those tunnels. It's rather obvious more than one person could fit in there. Like, well, again, just stupid people just being stupid. The point is, the game wasn't all that interesting. The fact that's important is that John already had this game set up in advance after his death, just in case he did die, and had Hoffman oversee it. But Hoffman's too busy doing his own revenge bullshit with Sream, and seeing if he can't be just like John. And how does he become just like John? Let's see if I can't get some disciples. Can I get some apprentices now? You know, I'm now the new John. I'm in charge. He comes out a hero at the end of Saw 4 because he saves the child's life, and he feels good. He gets promoted, and he's on top of the world. He's having that moment like John did before his fatal fall. But Strom's not a fucking idiot. Strom knows that the Hoffman is the killer, and confronts him. And of course, Hoffman gives him kind of the same apprentice deal that Jigsaw gave him. That's where the glass coffin comes in. Fun fact, guys, forgot to make a mention of this, but back when John was going through his depression state and he didn't know these games were going to work, you could see he was working on several designs for different games that he was going to work on. The glass coffin and the rat being one of them, which means he thought this shit ahead of time. Which means originally John was supposed to be the one doing this trap, and I'm assuming this was probably going to be for somebody who was supposed to be the apprentice. I'm assuming that's what it was going to be, and I'm assuming that's how Hoffman was going to do it as well, to see if Strong could be an apprentice. And unfortunately, Strong fell through Hoffman into the glass coffin instead. Now, I know a lot of y'all thinking, I mean, that makes no sense. If you know, if Strong went into the coffin, Hoffman would have been dead because the walls were caving in. Now, I'm pretty sure Hoffman had a fucking key. I'm willing to bet. He probably would have been like, alright, you passed your test. You are my new apprentice, bro. Let's go. I'm sure he had a backup plan, but Strong didn't follow through. Strong got killed. Strong got killed. But it shows you the type of person Hoffman is. That he thinks now that John's dead, not even dead like an hour or so. He is now the new Jigsaw. He starts making his own games up. And when I mean making his own games up, again, Saw 7. And then he takes the games from Jim. But we're about to get there. So after the whole incident with Saw 5, we go to Saw 6, which is the zoo game. Now this one, I know why he made Jill, why he picked Jill for this. This one, and this is why I say this is his final game. It's the last guy who personally fucked over John. This is the guy who basically started all this, the whole formula bullshit, the whole probability of life and death. Because remember, he went to him about the whole Norwegian, doctor thing, and he flat out told him no. John kind of blames him and is mad at him for the whole situation. So John wants to test him. And I love his games because they're hardcore, they're edgy, and I like them. The merry-go-round, that's one of my favorite games. The hangman one, it's wonderful. And it gets the guy thinking about everything, about the probability of life and death, even to the end. Now, what I thought was a great twist was, if I may digress for a second, was the fact that the people, the mother and son in the cage, I thought those were William's wife and child. No, the blonde's his wife, the mother and child are a husband who wanted to relate to a husband who wound up dead because of William's rejecting his insurance. So yeah, I thought that was a good twist. But the point is, John purposely set this one up as a final goodbye, and Jill was supposed to oversee this one because this was not only supposed to be John's last game, but this was also supposed to get Hoffman into his test. Now, Hoffman was going to be tested. Hoffman didn't think he was ever going to be tested, but John made it so through Jill. Jill was supposed to run that game and then test Hoffman to see if he would pass. Here's the thing. Hoffman decided to take the lead. Hoffman basically busted on into a room and said, I know John gave you another game. Give it to me. And she was like, She gave him everything except for one vital piece of information, which was the whole, plot twist about the mother and the child. So, Hoffman, thinking he's in the clear doing his own thing, doesn't realize that Pam, who is an associated or assistant or something for Jill, found Amanda's blackmail letter and gave it to Jill. When Jill read that, Jill was like, fuck you, Hoffman. You are not who John thought you were. She read that and came to the same conclusion I did about Hoffman. That is why she went at Hoffman the way she did. She was only supposed to test him and then walk the hell out and never come back. That was what John told her to do. But because he blackmailed Amanda and basically got John killed, Hoffman was on her target list for revenge. So she put him in an unbeatable trap. And I thought that was kind of ironic that he gets put in an unbeatable trap. But he manages to get out of there because of the will to live. And thirst for revenge. Thirst for revenge, but the will to live. But, again, like I said, another reason why Jill was supposed to be part of the test is because she was friends with William. So she was close to this whole game. So she was supposed to be the overseer of this. But, funny enough, though, she didn't want to be a part of John's work, but she intentionally became part of it when John died, and then helped Hoffman out, giving him the targets and stuff for for a couple for the game, for this particular game. But Hoffman was supposed to get tested, but Jill was not supposed to attempt to kill him. That's where she fucked up at. She tried to kill Hoffman. But yeah, I'm gonna be honest, out of all the Saw sequels after Saw 3, because 4, like I said, 4 I could kind of deal without because that's Hoffman's game, but I still like it as a double feature with 3. I don't really care for 5 because it's boring. 6, though, 6 was good. 6 was a roller coaster ride. Now let's get to my least favorite of the bunch, because we're now slowly moving into Saw 3D territory. Now I'm gonna make a disclaimer here. I don't like this, but I appreciate the movie for what it could have been. Let me explain. So, I did some digging around, and I asked the question, what was the point of that fucking public execution trap? What was the point? We know John's never been that flashy. I was wrong. So, apparently the movie was supposed to be in 2 parts. Supposed to be Assault 7 and Assault 8. The opening of the movie was supposed to play out like this. You see the girl get cut in half. The camera pans over to the crowd. There's John standing there. And he says, they don't know who I am, now they will. It was supposed to be a prequel kill. We were supposed to see the first public execution where John's basically coming out to the world saying, I'm Jigsaw, everybody, welcome. That was supposed to be his coming out party. And funny enough, Gordon was supposed to be there witnessing this with John, so John could basically look at Gordon and go, son, this is what I do. this is what you're going to be doing. Because at the end of the movies, remember when Hoffman gets jumped, there's 2 other guys in pig masks. Fun fact, it's supposed to be the 2 jilted lovers from this opening, because they passed the test. They basically passed the test. But unfortunately, it didn't play out like that. So it's Gordon's day. The public, I'm going to state that. I don't think Hoffman did this one, because this was still a beatable trap. Granted, somebody had to die, but it was still a beatable trap. Hoffman didn't make that because Hoffman doesn't make beatable traps. Hoffman likes to make traps that nobody can win. I said it. He makes shitty traps. But Gordon, I think Gordon made this trap. 100%. It's very flashy, but it would make sense that Gordon would do this to tell people Jigsaw's still here. Because you gotta remember, at this point, at Saw 3D, Hoffman's been missing for several months to a year now. John's been dead for a while now. People kind of not forgot about Jigsaw, but not so, oh my god, I am, fearful of Jigsaw. This trap shows you Jigsaw's still here, bitches, and he's still having fun. And it's also something for Hoffman to get him out of hiding. Because granted, his whole thing is revenge. He wants to kill the FBI agents that are on his fucking ass because they're apparently part of this now, and he wants to kill Jill for trying to kill him. But we don't care what Hoffman's doing. We care about what John's legacy is doing. And Gordon doing this public execution trap the way he did. And again, that's why I said I think it's Gordon, not Hoffman, is because of how the script was supposed to play out. So I still think Gordon made this trap. Now I don't know if he made the Nazis trap. Y'all remember the fucking neo-Nazis? God rest his soul. The lead singer, we all know. Chester, he played the neo-Nazi in this. But that trap, was that Gordon? Or was that Hoffman? I'm going to say Gordon. I'm going to say Gordon on that one. And why I say Gordon? Because Hoffman was doing his own game with Bobby, whatever the fuck his name was. Again, I'm not going to learn his name. I can't stand the guy. I don't like him. Let me explain. So, like I said, he got inspired by the tragic tales of everybody's surviving this. So he thinks he can cash in on this. I think Hoffman picked him because he was annoyed by, not Hoffman, Gordon to a degree. No, wait, actually now I'm thinking about it. I think Gordon, now I'm thinking about it, Gordon picked him. I think Hoffman set the game up, but Gordon picked him. Or am I so blinded by my hatred for Hoffman, I'm not seeing the obvious here. Could it have been Gordon who made the Saw 7 game? Think about that. Again, what I just said about the flashiness of the first thing. Gordon was there during the interview. Or not the interview, but that little circle meeting of the survivors. He was there. He was there. Why have that scene there? But again, the script was supposed to be different. So, I'm still going to say Hoffman did this trap, but Gordon took an interest in the guy. And maybe Hoffman took an interest in the guy. Because the fact that he's cashing in on this whole I'm a survivor BS. And the reason why I'm still sticking with Hoffman is because the traps are beatable. Actually, you know what? I'm going to reject my statement here. I don't think the traps are Hoffman. I know, shocker, as much as I talk shit on Hoffman. So you think about it. The traps were beatable. They were painful. They used pretty usual shenanigans when it comes to Jigsaw's plans. But they were painful, but beatable in a psychological torment. Because remember, I said, Gordon did that first trap, that public execution. Somebody had to die And that's been the whole thing with Saul 7's big game with Bobby, is that people were dying because of his lies. Now, I think the reason why I was so blind about the hatred is because in this particular game, his wife, Bobby's wife, the innocent soul, the only good noodle of the whole bunch who had no idea that her husband was a fucking liar, she gets killed because he fails his test. And like I said, Gordon did that flashy thing, and it was supposed to be psychological trauma. What if this is the same thing? So what if Gordon's the one who actually set up this trap? What if it wasn't Hoffman? What if it was Gordon? Let's take out Hoffman here and say it was Gordon who did this. These traps were beatable. They were hard, but they were beatable. And the fact that they recreated all the traps that he supposedly did in his story, you know, putting the hooks through his pecs and shit, and then Gordon being around for all the meetings, yeah, no, okay, yeah, I changed my mind. Gordon did the 7 traps. Gordon did the 7 traps. Still doesn't mean I like the game, though. That still doesn't mean I like the game, because, again, I just don't find it fair that she had to die. Like, you could have put anybody else. I get why he picked her, because of the psychological trauma. The fact that if he failed the game, she would have died, and he would have had a real reason to be haunted for the rest of his life. But still, though, it's not fair. He was a good person. She was a good person. But the point is, Hoffman, now as you think about it, since he's not the one doing the games, it's all Gordon doing the game. Hoffman is so caught up on his own revenge thing, he just fails as Jigsaw. That's why Gordon comes after him, besides the fact that he killed Jill, and that was under Jigsaw's direct orders that if anything was to happen to Jill, take immediate action, he said. Hoffman fucked up there going after Jill, but I don't think Gordon would have worked well with Hoffman. I think eventually, even if Hoffman didn't go after Jill, he still would have took Hoffman down, because Hoffman, instead of doing his games like he's supposed to, he's too busy playing peekaboo and tag with the FBI. He's too busy playing double agent here. I don't know. I gotta go back and rewatch Saw 7 and confirm or deny this. Because again, I only watched tidbits and stuff, because Saw 7 was not one of my favorites. But I did do a lot more research into what the script was supposed to be. And that's what intrigued me more about Saw 7, is that the script idea was better than what we fucking got. But the point is, Gordon succeeded because he is passing on the true testimony of what Jigsaw stood for. He's getting the apprentices. He's helping people survive these, go through these terrible death traps and survive and make it out. He's the one doing this and changing people's lives. Not only is he a doctor changing lives and not having an affair anymore, hopefully he's a good father and a decent human being, but he is now continuing on with the teaching of Jigsaw, and he's doing it properly. He's not cutting corners. He's being a little bit more crude about it, but I think that comes with the times. He knows that people got to make that sacrifice emotionally, especially if they want that will to live. Let's take one of the more famous traps that they talk about during the meeting. This woman and her abusive husband were hanging on these, like, spiky bars above a bunch of lawnmowers. And somebody had to fall to, you know, to end the game. Would it be the victim or the abuser? Of course it's the abuser. It's fuck that guy. And she makes it. She makes it, but she's unscathed. She's not unscathed. She is not unscathed. But it was her choice, whether it would have been her or her abuser. Somebody had to die in that situation, and that brought her closer to God. The fact that she was able to take down her abuser. And that same thing with the boys. Think about that love triangle. The boys could have turned on themselves for that girl, or they could have looked at it and went, bro, she's playing both of us. Screw her. Gordon is basically cutting to the point of the revenge. He's putting the revenge in. Oh my God. I just blew my own mind here. Gordon's putting his own revenge into the games. for them. He took the idea that Kramer had about revenge, and instead of putting his revenge into the game, he puts their revenge into the game. Think about that. Mind blown right there. Gordon is a success case. Gordon is the success case. This is why Kramer's teaching worked. Without the influence of Hoffman, Amanda probably could have done the same thing. But again, let's look at what Hoffman's doing. Hoffman is running around like a damn fool after the FBI and going after revenge. And of course, because of the revenge, he puts Jill in the reverse bear trap, the iconic trap that started it all, ends it all. She, of course, get her mouth ripped open. It's so beautiful. I had to watch it twice. Like, I'm not even lying. I wanted to see that trap in action for so long. Like, out of all the traps, like, I know that makes me a sick individual, but it's a true fact. Out of all the traps, this was the one. This was the one. And I was super excited to see it. But the point is, trap goes off, boom, dead. And Hoffman covers his tracks. All the FBI is dead. He thinks he's in the clear. Gordon comes in and does the last thing John requested of him. Keep Jill, if anything should have happened to Jill, because he knew if Jill fucked up and Hoffman got out and would seek revenge, again, that's how well thought everything was. He knew that Hoffman was a loose cannon and that Jill could get in trouble and wind up dead. So if that was the case, boom, Hoffman's taken care of. Gordon's still in charge. Hoffman is left to die and rot in the bathroom like Adam was. Straight up. Like, y'all can say, oh, Hoffman survived that. No, he didn't. He is left in the dark, no flashlight, no tools, no toilet lid, chained up in that one chain that has no spare key, but someone always manages to fucking open it. The door's locked. It's game over for Hoffman. It's game over for him. He failed as an apprentice. He fucked up John's teachings. And he did not get along. But, again, Gordon carries on. Gordon is that success case. But there's also another success case. That is Logan. We're going to go back to Logan for a second. And don't worry, guys. We're about to slowly wrap up. We're on the last bit of this. So, of course, Logan comes back from the war and knows, Kramer's dead. Jigsaw's been dead. It's been a long time. He then gets that slow burn for revenge as well. He starts going and thinking about the teachings that his wonderful, wonderful mentor Jigsaw taught him, especially after his wife was brutally killed by an intruder, and then basically the intruder was set free by a dirty cop. We're seeing some similarities here yet again. The injustice and crime spree that Jigsaw is trying to take down. Logan does the same thing. He plays just like John, and he also succeeds just like John as well, where he literally thinks of everything ahead of time. He pre-plans everything. He knows how people are going to react. He recreated the barn game to a T. Actually had the brains like Hoffman to set somebody else up, and he proved to himself he could be just like not Hoffman. He could be just like Kramer. He could be John. He could do what he did. And I think he could succeed as John because he has the motivation. He picked people that basically, the dirty cop, I can never remember, oh God, what is his name? Did I write down his name? Holleran, that's his name. Holleran. Holleran, of course, is the dirty cop, and all the people in the games are people he basically set free. All these criminals he set free. So he picked those people to tie in to Holleran so he would look like the Jigsaw killer. So Holleran disappears at the end of the... technically, he dies, but it doesn't look like he disappeared. Granted, though, his death was badass. Unbelievable, but badass nonetheless. Like, you can't deny. You cannot deny that laser trap thing was not cool. That thing was badass. Like, it reminded me of the Jimmy Gorgon so much when his head blossomed. I was just like, that is so cool. Like, straight up, that was so cool. But you see that Logan, just like John, carries on. But his influence still passes through the years. And this is where we come into Spiral. John's influence not only just affected New Jersey, where he came at, but it influenced all over the state, all over the country, to the point that we have Spiral where similar situation, like we have seen dirty cops, injustice going on. The guy doing the killings on this one was a young man who, as a boy, watched his father get killed by a dirty cop. And so he wanted revenge on his police precinct for not only that, but for the fact that the dirty cop, Chris Rock's character, who was his partner, turned him in. Chris Rock turned him in, and then basically got chastised by the whole team for being a snitch. And so he didn't like that. So he used John's teachings, his methods, to teach these lessons. Now, I will say where he fucked up at is the revenge aspect. He, too, is not giving people any chance to live. And now, let me explain. The tongue trap for the subway system. I doubt it, even if he pulled his tongue out, he would have survived. 100%. He would not have survived that. Like, do you know how many veins and blood vessels are in your tongue? You will bleed to death. You would choke on your own blood. And the fact that he's in a subway system, so he gets hit by a subway. Now, the guy gets his fingers pulled off, or attempted pulled off. I don't know how well he would be functioning after the fact, but I feel like that's probably a beatable trap. Maybe. I know for a fact that the police chief heard trap the wax. That's just not fair. He straight up was just like, paralyze yourself or die. I'd rather be dead, to be honest. Like, if I paralyze from the neck down, just kill me. Just kill me, bro. But that's where he's fucking up at. Where he is trying to take John's Kramer teaching and do revenge. So, again, you have to take out revenge when you're wanting to be his followers. Again, you can keep your revenge. But Gordon had it right. Don't put your revenge in there. I mean, you can, for little shits and giggles, but put their revenge in. And that's why I say John's methods work. As crazy it is, it works. He's a madman. He's insane. He's a psychopath with God complex, superiority complex. He has a fucking egotistical, he just needs to be God. He wants to be worshipped like God. He thinks he's an oracle here. John thinks and is a fucking immortal. He is immortal now. He succeeded what he wanted to do. He wanted to live forever. Granted, he couldn't live physically forever, but people know John. He's like Batman. Criminals are afraid of him. No matter how many years pass, even after the man is dead. Like you remember in Saw 7, they dug up his body. They dug up his body because they thought, they thought for sure. Wait a minute, was it Saw 7? No, I think it was Jigsaw. I think it was in Jigsaw they dug up his body. I can't remember. The point is, they were so scared John was coming back from the dead, they dug up his body. Granted, somebody was fucking with them and moved John's body, but still, the idea that he lives forever, as they said in Jigsaw, he lives forever through his followers, through the teachings, through the words. He is now immortal, and his teachings are true. You just gotta find the right apprentice that understands his teachings. And that's where, unfortunately, he fails at, because people's need for revenge is strong. Think about statistically how many murders happen because of revenge. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know it's a lot. Revenge murder is a common thing, For one way or another, someone's going to get revenge and kill somebody. That's a common thing. And unfortunately, I don't think John quite calculated how some people would carry on that revenge to the extent. I knew he kind of had an idea with Hoffman, because again, he was prepared for when Jill died. But I don't think he took into consideration of other people, because again, he's only looking at the people he communicates with, he met in person. His influence stretches out to a lot of people across the country. So everyone's idea for revenge is different, but they'll still use his teachings as their motivations. And that's what makes him a fantastic horror icon, like straight up. He's a genius with fucked up morals and values. He's scary, he's calculated, but yet he never killed anybody. He never actually physically stabbed anybody, shot anybody, slit anybody's throat, threw him in a tree, threw him at a car, ran him over. He never did any of it. He never touched the soul. But yet he's one of the most notorious serial killers in the franchise. And that's incredible. And that's why John, like I said, is one of my favorite horror icons. Because he's a genius. He's scary for all the right reasons. He's intimidating, even for a man at his age. He's 52 years old, I want to say, when he passes away. For a man at his age, for everything he's done, it's incredible. It really is. And again, guys, I'm not sitting here and glorifying him and saying, oh my God, he's so great, we should totally follow him in actual reality. No, I'm not saying that. He's a psychopath, he's a fictional character. No, just no. But as a horror icon, as somebody who is meant to be written as a scary individual, he is really, really good. Now, does he do jump scares, or does he like pop out of the cabinets, or come at you in your dreams? No, he's not that scary individual. He's the worst kind of scary individual out there. He's real. He's realistic. He is that type of guy who I could see on the 5 o'clock news committing murders. I can't see somebody like Jason Voorhees walking around. I can't really see someone like Chucky walking around. But I can see somebody like Jigsaw walking around doing all this. Because people are crazy. People are nuts. People will find reasons to do what they got to do, and people will justify their reasonings. John, his justification? Cherish life. Don't waste it. I was given life, and my life was taken from me. I enjoyed what I had. Why can't others? That is his whole teaching. Cherish your life. If you don't live your life, what's the point of living? You deserve a chance, take it. If put in the situation, take it. And again, that is why I absolutely love John, and I think he is just a fantastic icon. I think I've done rambled on long enough. I hope y'all kind of understand where I'm coming from when it comes to John's, analyzing John himself. He's an interesting, complex character. He's a great horror icon. He's fun. We can't forget some of his gimmicks, such as Billy the Puppet and all the traps and stuff. He's amazing. He's a good one. And yes, this whole franchise is based on torture porn. I'm not gonna lie about that. Like it started it. I want to say it was either Saw. I want to say it was Saw first, and Hostel followed behind it, going, "We can one up you one better, buddy." But there's more to the Saw franchise than torture porn. There's a man who has a mission to prove. There's a man on a mission here. The will to live. Cherish your life, and don't be a bad dude. Just don't be a bad dude. Don't be a dumbass. That's all I'm gonna say. Cherish your life, live your life to the fullest. Don't be a dumbass. Like, seriously. Well, like I said, I think I rambled on long enough about John. I hope this was a fun little podcast. Again, this is something completely new. I've never really done. I've talked about movies I liked, and point by point, talk about what I liked about him, what I didn't like. I've never actually took an icon and talked about him. So hopefully, if this is something y'all definitely like, let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, because you never know what I'm going to be talking about on here, especially on the podcast. Because, again, I thought originally I was going to do this whole few months thing where I was going to watch all the Saw movies and chit-chat and talk about them. But when I realized it was Kramer I wanted to talk about, we had to change some stuff up. So I'm going to go ahead and end this here. I hope everybody who has watched, is watching, will watch. I hope you enjoy. I hope everybody has a fantastic and a wonderful night, guys. And like I said, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below. If you're watching this on Anchor and Spotify, don't forget to follow on there. Next time on the podcast, being that we're going to be rolling into February, I think I'm going to have fun with a little Valentine's Day movie I absolutely love. And it's literally called Valentine. It's got David Boreas in it. It's a fun little slasher movie that doesn't really get talked about too terribly much. It's kind of gimmicky for the early 2000s, but it's fun. I will be talking about that at some point. So keep an eye out on that. And we'll go to see how the rest of the month plays out. See if there's anything else I want to talk about now that I kind of changed the movie schedules a little bit. But that is a story for another day. So until then, my friends, y'all take care.